Thom. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code THOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Thom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code THOM.
We say fight back!
It's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive Thursday. Please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV stay on the air. This is our great network. It's got great content. It's an important piece of our media landscape. I would say a vital piece. You'll get information here you don't get anywhere else, or you'll get the deep dives here that generally you don't see anywhere else. Free Speech TV is really an important voice for not just a progressive point of view or even a democratic point of view, but for an American point of view, for a pro-American point of view, for American values, or at least what we once thought were American values. So please, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. Please call now and make your contribution. This is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for many of us. At least I can breathe a little better today. The air here in Portland has gotten a little better, but it's just tough. It's tough all over the country, and it's tough for the folks at Free Speech TV too. Many of them, most of them, I think, are working remotely. It's difficult for them. But financially, it's a very difficult time for the network. It happens every 4 years, basically. We really have a challenge raising money, because there are so many, politicians and good causes, great causes, that are competing essentially with us for the funds that we need every 3-4 months to keep the lights on, to keep the electrons flowing, to keep things working. So it's a tough one. Tip of the hat to Mike from San Francisco. He has picked up all of our hard costs. He also tossed in a $10,000 match yesterday, and thank you, Mike, for that. A lot of people made a contribution, and if you're one of them, thank you. And Andrew from San Diego has got a $10,000 match for us if we hit our goal at the end of this fund drive. So we are moving as fast and as hard as we can toward that. So now would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669 and make your contribution. If you get value from Free Speech TV, is it worth $5 to you? $5 a month even? In fact, the monthly contributions are some of the absolutely most important, because that allows Free Speech TV to budget. I think yesterday we had fewer than $100 in monthly contributions. Monthly contributions are really the very best. Even, for example, if you're thinking, I can give $100, instead make it $10 a month for a year. Well, that'd be $120, but you get the point. $100 a month for 10 months. You can tell them when to cut it off, or you can just say, hey, every month ding my credit card until I tell you to stop. And they will stop immediately. This isn't one of those, multi-level marketing things or something like that. Everything is right up front. Everything is right out in the open. They don't sell their names or their lists. Free Speech TV doesn't, or anything like that. Good folks, you can trust them. And monthly contributions are so important to Free Speech TV because they allow the network to plan for the future. In fact, it's pretty much the only way that the network can know, okay, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, here's how much money we're going to have coming in, so this is what we can do with that money. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Fight for Democracy sticker, or the set of 3 stainless steel straws. Yesterday, the air was so bad, I was wearing this mask, and I was thinking, if I had one of those straws, I could just kind of run it up under the mask and drink things. I have some on order, actually. So, from Free Speech TV. That's with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get you have your choice, the Free Speech TV webcam cover, or the tote bag, Change Never Happens from the Top Down, or the postcard deck, the Fight for Democracy postcard deck. With a $75 gift, the only way you can get the official Thom Hartmann Program mug with the $75 gift from Free Speech TV, or the Free Speech TV black hat that has the Free Speech TV logo on it. Excuse me. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV face mask. It says, "What can we grow from crisis?" and which is kind of cool. With a $120 gift, there you have your choice. There's a T-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. You can also make your own if you want to be an evangelist for the network. We need all the help we can get. Or your choice of one of 3 books, either my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, or a Greg Palast book, How Trump Stole 2020, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a really good book, by the way, The Hidden Histories of Monopolies. It's one of the best. I'm so proud of this book. I put a hell of a lot of work into it. I think you'll really like it. Heck of a lot of work, excuse me. With a $240 gift, we've got the virtual meet and greets on October 14th and November 18th. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with the bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the tote bag, the postcards, and the Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. But bottom line, call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you. They need your help. Please call now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, and welcome to Thoughtful Thursday. It's still gray and smoky here in Portland. It's just amazing how Louise and I have not taken a walk in, I think, a week now. And I am realizing, and she is realizing, how psychologically important it was to us to get out of the house for 45 minutes or an hour every single day. It's because we've just been locked in here for a week now, and it's not good for our bodies. It's not good for our minds. It's just amazing. Anyhow, a lot coming up on the program today. In our second hour, Professor Richard Wolff is going to drop by. We're going to be talking about what happens when the economy actually is run as herd immunity. Sarah Kendzior is going to be with us about the invention of Donald Trump and the erosion of America and American democracy. David Kraft is going to talk about Exelon's nuclear hostage crisis in our third hour. And at the end of this hour, about 10 minutes before the top of the next hour, we're going to be talking with, and this is going to be really interesting, we're going to be talking with these guys who are putting together this new Midas Touch gig. And they're going to be showing up on Sirius XM, too, pretty soon. We'll tell you all about that in about 45 minutes or thereabouts. But I wanted to start out, with a couple of stories that I think are, 2 stories that I think are radically undercovered. There's not anywhere near enough coverage for these 2 stories, and it's I find it frankly shocking. The Trump administration has not yet said it out loud that they're going for a herd immunity strategy. This is the first of those 2 stories. They have not said it out loud yet. But yesterday at his town hall on ABC with George Stephanopoulos, Trump was talking about herd mentality and how the virus will simply vanish when a certain threshold of people get infected. That's called herd immunity. And it requires about 70% of the population to get the disease. And if 70% of the population gets the disease, and we have about a 3% death rate right now here in the United States, 70% of 340 million Americans is 200 and some odd million Americans. You take that number and multiply it times 3%, and you end up with roughly 6 million people dying as the result or consequence, but it's like the intended result of a herd immunity strategy. You kill off the vulnerable, and only the strong are left standing, which is a phrase that I think probably sounds really good to people like Donald Trump and Bill Barr and Scott Atlas, although Donald Trump and Bill Barr, both being old and obese, would probably be among the first to die from this thing. Not that I'm wishing that on anybody. I wouldn't. I mean, we're learning that this virus, not only would we have 6 million dead Americans in the United States if we continue pursuing this policy. The Trump administration has stopped advising states. They've gotten control of the CDC, and they've stopped advising states to have mask mandates. No more masks. As Bill Barr said, that's the same as slavery. I mean, this is nuts. And by the way, it's not just the deaths. I mean, 6 million dead people, but, for every one death, you're going to have 2, 3, 5, 10 people. Who knows? I mean, we're just starting to figure out the statistics of people who are simply sick. The long haulers, there are people who literally have never recovered from COVID. We don't know what percentage it is. It's higher than the percentage of people who are dying, so it's more than 3%. But beyond that, we haven't yet been able to figure it out. There are some indicators here and there, but these are people who are just permanently disabled. They just haven't gotten over it. You've got people who are experiencing strokes and microstrokes and mini strokes. You've got people who are experiencing dementia from having had COVID. You've got, in the United Kingdom, they looked at a group of people who were fully recovered, and none of them had been so seriously sick that they needed to be intubated. A couple of them were hospitalized to give oxygen, but that was it. These were people with mild to moderate cases. And about 80% of them had heart damage. I mean, we have athletes, top-level athletes in the United States with heart damage now as a result of having had COVID. So, and that's just the beginning. I mean, this appears to damage the liver, the spleen, the kidneys, the eyes. I mean, it's just like it has the potential to damage any organ in the body. So with a herd immunity strategy, not only do you have 6 million dead, but you probably got 20, 30, 40 million permanently disabled Americans. Can you imagine just the cost of that? If suddenly 30 million Americans qualify for Social Security disability insurance? Oh, that's right. Trump's plan ends Social Security in 3 years. I forgot. He issued an executive order that says that do not deduct Social Security taxes any longer from people's paychecks. And he's putting it into place with our military. They're going to get a big bill in December if he doesn't get reelected. If he does get reelected, then he says he's just going to make it permanent, which means no more Social Security starting 3 years from now. Period. Goes to zero. So why would he do this? Is it that he just wants to destroy America? I mean, is he doing this because some foreign leader who hates this country told him to? Or is he doing it because, hey, if you want to play golf every day, or, 1 day out of 3, he's played golf more than 1 day out of 3 in his presidency. If you want to play golf every day and you want to watch 6 or 8 hours of Fox News every day, then the easiest way to run the country is not to do anything. And herd immunity means, hey, we don't have to do anything. And at the same time, you've got Republicans in the House and Senate who are like basically creating this, well, let's let 6 million people die caucus. By the way, when was the last time I heard the phrase, a policy that killed 6 million people? I mean, this is a Holocaust, or it will be if Trump has his way. And for some baffling reason, the media is largely ignoring this story. I mean, maybe because it's so hard to believe that the President of the United States would sit around with his scientific advisors, this Dr. Scott Atlas, this radiologist that he got from Fox News, and say, well, yeah, it's only 6 million dead people. You know, there's a lot of people in this country who are old or who are out of shape or who have that pre-existing condition of dark skin. And, if they die off, what's the big deal? This is the guy who brought us a failed steak company, a failed vodka company, a failed airline, a failed school, several failed casinos, if you can even imagine that, and even a real estate empire that was failing so badly it had to be bailed out by foreign billionaires, by oligarchs in other countries. Donald Trump doesn't know how to run a business. It shouldn't surprise us that he doesn't know how to run a country, and his latest failure, tragically, is the United States of America. But running a bunch of companies into the ground doesn't kill 6 million people and disable 20 or 30 or 40 million. I mean, I got to say, Trump's new herd mentality strategy is for dealing with the coronavirus is beyond incompetent. It is, frankly, I think evil. I mean, this is nuts. And now we've got another case of an American. This was just published in The Guardian. Jessica Glenza. A man in Nevada was infected with COVID back in March. He recovered. He tested negative, and then he got reinfected. He got reinfected with a different strain of the virus. His original infection was the Asia strain. His reinfection was the Europe strain, which if this gets replicated, right now it's one case in America, one case in Hong Kong. If this gets replicated, then it means that the coronavirus is going to be like the common cold, which is to say you can't develop a vaccine for that, and you can't get immunity for that because it's constantly mutating, and then the immunity doesn't go to the mutations. That's why we've never been able, ever, and we've been working on this for 100 years, to create a virus against the coronavirus called the common cold. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff. We'll be back. Oh, and I'll get to the second story, the second that I think is not being counted right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It has to do, surprise, surprise, with the 12th Amendment. We'll be back. And welcome back. Mary in Arlington, Texas. Hey, Mary, what's on your mind today?
Yes, thank you, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. I'm sorry I don't speak as well as I used to. I've had a stroke. I've lost my daughter to COVID. This man is killing us. He is putting us in all a vulnerable position. And we've had a terrible time here. And we have to realize that if we don't take up our arms and say, wait a minute, this man is killing us. Can we not say, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up? This is not what we're supposed to do. And we're all taking it too lightly. Too lightly. I'm so sorry.
Mary, tell us about your daughter.
I know, sir.
I'm so sorry to hear about your daughter. Tell us about her, Mary.
She was a precious job. She was so afraid that she'd give it to me. So afraid that she's going to give it to me. She had everything going for her. She was, of course, on the front line, one of the ones that's going to serve on the front line. But as I say, this man is killing us. He is taking us to the front. And can't we, as I say, can't we put him in jail? Is he not doing sedition?
What? Well, that's kind of it's kind of an open question, Mary. I mean, we now have the Attorney General saying that the people who are protesting, who are engaging in property damage, are themselves engaged in sedition. Mary, thank you for the call. I wish you the very best, and I'm so sorry to hear about your daughter. This is mind-boggling. I mean, that the President of the United States would take a science advisor from Fox News, a radiologist who has never worked in the field of infectious diseases, a guy who makes his living doing MRI scans of people's brains. And he would put this guy in charge of our coronavirus policy. And then when the director of the CDC, Dr. Robert Redfield, comes out and says, well, yeah, these masks will save your lives. You know, the mask is more effective than a vaccine, which is mind-boggling. But, I mean, that's how Taiwan did it. Taiwan has not had a case of community spread since April 12th. Life is back to normal in Taiwan. They've got this virus under control. They're not having deaths. They're not having long-term disabilities. How did they do it? Well, they didn't shut down their economy, and that seems to be the thing that Donald Trump is trying to avoid. Okay, fine. Let's not shut down the economy. Just have everybody wear a friggin' mask and do testing and contact tracing. That's all they did in Taiwan. That's all it took. But you've got to catch it before half the population has it. I mean, there are certain points that you hit where there's so many people who are infected that you can no longer do testing and contact tracing. You know, because it's so ubiquitous. People have, well, I don't know where I got it from. I saw 5 different people who it turned out were infected. And that's what Trump is trying to get us to. It looks to me like this is a campaign to simply destroy this country. I'm just astonished. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. In my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream, I'll be taking you from the birth of America as a revolt against monopoly, remember the Boston Tea Party, to the largely successful efforts of both Presidents Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt and other like-minded leaders to constrain corporations' monopolistic urges, to the massive changes in the rules of business starting during the Reagan Revolution that have brought us into the cancer stage of capitalism. In the foreword by Ralph Nader, he says, "This is the most important dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation." End quote. It's the 4th in my Hidden History series, available where all fine books are sold. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy starts with you. Tag, you're it. Welcome back. At the opening of the show, I mentioned two scenarios, 2 stories. And I'll get to the second story in just a second. I just want to kind of close up the loop on Donald Trump and his herd immunity strategy. There's basically 2 ways to deal with this virus. And when you try to go a middle road, which is what's happening in Europe right now, it breaks down. The first way is to stop it in its tracks. It's what we did with SARS. It's what we did with MERS. It's what we did with Ebola. You simply stop it in its tracks. And that's what Taiwan did with the coronavirus. They have not had a case of domestic transmission. They have not had a case since April 12th. Every single new case of coronavirus that has popped up in Taiwan since April 12th has been a person who came in on an airplane or a boat and got quarantined. So life is back to normal there. Well, you say, they must have shut down the country for quite a while, right? No, they never shut down the country. This is the whole, kind of straw man canard thing that Trump and Bill Barr, it's like, slavery. You don't have to shut down the country. Taiwan didn't shut down the country. What did they do? They had everybody wear masks, which, as Dr. Redfield pointed out yesterday, is actually more effective than everybody being vaccinated. They had everybody wear masks, and they did testing and contact tracing. And anybody who was infected or anybody who had been exposed to somebody who was infected got quarantined for 2 weeks. That's what they did. So they didn't shut down the whole country. They didn't shut down the whole economy. The 23 million people of Taiwan did not, go into their bunkers. A few thousand of them stayed in their bedrooms for 2 weeks. Not quite slavery. And they defeated the virus. The other extreme end is just let it run crazy. Let it run wild. Try to achieve herd immunity. Let it kill off a whole bunch of your population. It's what Jair Bolsonaro is doing right now in Brazil. And it's what Donald Trump is doing right now in the United States. And if that strategy is continuing to be pursued here in the United States, we could have as many as 6 million dead Americans and 20 or 30 or 40 million permanently disabled Americans. And now we discover that you can reinfect it with a different strain of this virus, just like with the other coronavirus that we're all familiar with, the common cold. This is why you can get 2 or 3 colds a year and why you get a cold every year, because it's a new strain, it's a mutation. This virus is mutated in a relatively significant way 7 times now. And there's dozens of smaller mutations. So that's story number 1. The second story, you will recall, if you're a regular listener to this program, you will recall that back in, April? I think it was, maybe March? Probably, in fact, it might have even been before the coronavirus was a big deal. I published a piece, it went up in Common Dreams and Alternet and Raw Story and The Progressive, et cetera, Salon, where I laid out how the election of 1876 went down, where it got thrown to the House of Representatives. And I pointed out that if this election, if there are not enough states that certify a single electoral slate, a single, that say, yes, we are, the state of Florida has decided that the entire state is voting for Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Doesn't matter. If you don't have enough states certifying the electoral votes, that either candidate gets 270 votes, electoral votes, then the election goes to the House of Representatives. And in the House, each state has 1 vote, and that vote is determined by their state House of Representatives and state Senate combined, which are majority Republican controlled in the United States right now, which means Donald Trump gets reelected. I think this is the sentence that was, most uncovered or failed to be covered. Over at the Daily Mail, the situation. Donald Trump says, this is at a White House briefing. He said, at a certain point, it goes to Congress. He's talking about the election. At a certain point, it goes to Congress. I have been shouting this for at least a half a year now, that I know from contacts that I have in Washington, D.C., and I know from common sense that the Republicans have been planning this. Let's screw up this election so we can't have a certified slate of electors, so it goes to the House of Representatives. And I think this whole thing with the mail is part of this. And then my old friend Jim Turr sent me a thing yesterday that he got, I don't know, he got it off Facebook or what. And he said, what happens when hordes of Republican voters show up at the polls without masks and then make loud hacking cough noises to try to scare off Democratic voters? What happens in those states where mask wearing, and Trump is now saying anywhere in the United States, no mask wearing mandates, when they don't enforce mask wearing at the polls? Are people going to be afraid to vote? I think that's the strategy. And what's the outcome of that? Well, it could be that Trump wins. It could be that it gets thrown to the House of Representatives. In either case, that is not American democracy. That's something out of a third world dictator's playbook. We'll be back with your calls and thoughts on all this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We'll be right back with your calls. Stick around. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program, helping you win the war. It's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive Thursday. Please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV stay on the air. This is our great network. It's got great content. It's an important piece of our media landscape. I would say a vital piece. You'll get information here you don't get anywhere else, or you'll get the deep dives here that generally you don't see anywhere else. Free Speech TV is really an important voice for not just a progressive point of view or even a democratic point of view, but for an American point of view, for a pro-American point of view, for American values, or at least what we once thought were American values. So please, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. Please call now and make your contribution. This is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for many of us. At least I can breathe a little better today. The air here in Portland has gotten a little better, but it's just tough. It's tough all over the country, and it's tough for the folks at Free Speech TV too. Many of them, most of them, I think, are working remotely. It's difficult for them. But financially, it's a very difficult time for the network. It happens every 4 years, basically. We really have a challenge raising money because there are so many, politicians and good causes, great causes, that are competing essentially with us for the funds that we need every 3-4 months to keep the lights on, to keep the electrons flowing, to keep things working. So it's a tough one. Tip of the hat to Mike from San Francisco. He has picked up all of our hard costs. He also tossed in a $10,000 match yesterday, and thank you, Mike, for that. A lot of people made a contribution, and if you're one of them, thank you. And Andrew from San Diego has got a $10,000 match for us if we hit our goal at the end of this fund drive. So we are moving as fast and as hard as we can toward that. So now would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669 and make your contribution. If you get value from Free Speech TV, is it worth $5 to you? $5 a month even? In fact, the monthly contributions are some of the absolutely most important because that allows Free Speech TV to budget. I think yesterday we had fewer than $100 in monthly contributions. Monthly contributions are really the very best. Even, for example, if you're thinking, I can give $100, instead make it $10 a month for a year. Well, that'd be $120, but you get the point. $100 a month for 10 months. You can tell them when to cut it off, or you can just say, hey, every month ding my credit card until I tell you to stop. And they will stop immediately. This isn't one of those, multi-level marketing things or something like that. Everything is right up front. Everything is right out in the open. They don't sell their names or their lists. Free Speech TV doesn't, or anything like that. Good folks, you can trust them. And monthly contributions are so important to Free Speech TV because they allow the network to plan for the future. In fact, it's pretty much the only way that the network can know, okay, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, here's how much money we're going to have coming in, so this is what we can do with that money. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Fight for Democracy sticker, or the set of 3 stainless steel straws. Yesterday, the air was so bad, I was wearing this mask, and I was thinking, if I had one of those straws, I could just kind of run it up under the mask and drink things. I have some on order, actually. So, from Free Speech TV. That's with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get you have your choice, the Free Speech TV webcam cover, or the tote bag, Change Never Happens from the Top Down, or the postcard deck, the Fight for Democracy postcard deck. With a $75 gift, the only way you can get the official Thom Hartmann Program mug with the $75 gift from Free Speech TV, or the Free Speech TV black hat that has the Free Speech TV logo on it. Excuse me. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV face mask. It says, what can we grow from crisis? Which is kind of cool. With a $120 gift, there you have your choice. There's a t-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. You can also make your own if you want to be an evangelist for the network. We need all the help we can get. Or your choice of one of three books, either my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, or a Greg Palast book, How Trump Stole 2020, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a really good book, by the way, The Hidden Histories of Monopolies. It's one of the best. I'm so proud of this book. I put a hell of a lot of work into it. I think you'll really like it. Heck of a lot of work, excuse me. With a $240 gift, we've got the virtual meet and greets on October 14th and November 18th. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with the bumper sticker, the democracy sticker, the tote bag, the postcards, and the Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. But bottom line, call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you. They need your help. Please call now. Thank you. Degrees Celsius warming limit by the middle of the next decade. This is a huge warning to us all. Former EPA official Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali drops by to warn us about creating an apocalyptic, devastated planet. Attorney for Earth Justice Bradley Marshall is here informing us about bomb trains. Earth Justice has just filed a legal challenge to stop them. And in Geeky Science, I'm looking at why the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine study was put on hold. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Today is the 17th of September. There has been a leaked FEMA memo. It just came out. This is being reported by the dailybeast.com. And I'll just read from it. A leaked internal memo from the Federal Emergency Management Agency has reportedly revealed a near 17% spike in coronavirus-related deaths inside the United States last week. ABC News obtained the memo that showed the trend in new deaths has shot way up since the start of September. It said that 5,906 coronavirus-related deaths were recorded in the U.S. from September 9 to 15, which represents a 16.6% increase compared with the period 7 days earlier. Excuse me. That's amazing. That figure comes, that's the new Jets. And just, to the point of the election where I was talking about, these guys are trying to mess with the election to the point that it's basically unmanageable. And so the election will get thrown into the House of Representatives. This is the actual quote from Donald Trump. He said, "It's not just the counting of the ballots, by the way, which will take forever. It'll take forever. You think November 3rd? You might not have, I guess, at a certain point it goes to Congress. At a certain point it goes to Congress. You know that. This is, this was at his White House press briefing yesterday. Why is this not the top story in the news? And then on top of this, you get, the RNC and the New Jersey Republican State Committee and the Trump campaign just asked a federal judge to prevent New Jersey from counting mail-in ballots until Election Day. Ballots are coming in. Well, I don't know if they're coming in right now in New Jersey, but, in the next few weeks, mail-in ballots are going to start coming in. And a lot of states want to count these ballots in advance so that on Election Day, they can say, okay, well, we got about 70% of the mail-in ballots already counted. And here's the result from those. Plus, here's what we got from our voting machines. Plus, in a few days, we'll have all the rest of the ballots. And the Trump administration and the Republican Party do not want them to be able to say, here's what the mail-in ballot count is for at least a week or two. And then Matthew Miller, a former official with the U.S. Department of Justice, pointed out that, the DOJ, he said, the nightmare scenario I can't stop considering. If Barr wanted to prosecute a local mayor, Bill Barr yesterday talked about putting Seattle's mayor, Jenny Durkan, in jail, prosecuting her criminally. So Matt Miller says, the nightmare scenario I can't stop considering. If Barr wanted to prosecute a local mayor over a policy dispute, what is he going to do on November 5th when local election officials are still counting votes and Trump says it's time to stop counting votes? I mean, this is just mind-boggling. I don't know how to describe it beyond that. Paul in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind?
Tom, I have looked into this. There is no such thing as herd immunity as a natural phenomenon. Herd immunity is a vaccination theory. It was never intended as an either or. 70% will either be vaccinated or let them get the disease. No, it's not. The way I got onto this is I started wondering because I have a degree in bioscience, and I never remember sitting in a lecture at Michigan State, not even one, where the professor was talking about, the wildebeest of South Central Africa in 1907 were struck with a virus. No, I never heard one lecture like that. And so I started looking for where is the shining example of herd immunity. So as I got reading about it, it just says, no, it's a vaccination theory that was developed in the 30s when they observed small groups of children who'd had the measles, like, say, in a school, and realized that when the majority of the kids had the measles, it didn't spread as fast. And so they concluded that if we can vaccinate 65 to 70% of the children, not let them get the disease, because you have to understand, any disease that you would develop a vaccine for is not a disease you want to run rampant. It's too deadly. It's too damaging, and the measles are. And so it's not a phenomenon. It's not a natural phenomenon that has ever occurred in nature or in any human populations. All the diseases that I can have looked up, the human populations from the bubonic plague in England in 1664 back to the Black Plague in the 14th century, to the Justinian plague in Rome in the 6th century. These all wiped out a third of the population. There has never been a herd immunity phenomena in nature. This is nonsense. It's a vaccination theory. That's what we're talking about, vaccines. And that number, 70%, that can float because it's dependent on the constant of how virulent and how contagious the disease is. That could go up to maybe 85 or 90% with coronavirus.
And how persistent the immunity is. I mean, we've most all of us get a coronavirus infection every year. In fact, most of us get it a couple of times. And I can tell you, Paul, from personal experience, when you've got kids in school or grandkids in preschool, you start getting these coronavirus infections multiple times a year, and they are called the common cold. And the reason that you get it over and over and over again is because there are literally dozens of mutations of that particular virus every single year. And immunity to one does not mean immunity to another. And now we've got this guy in Las Vegas who definitely had the Asian strain, got sick with it, was diagnosed, recovered, tested negative for months, then was exposed to the European strain, and they even know who exposed him, and he got sick again, and the second time he got sick, he had to be hospitalized again. I mean, this is how this... I'm speechless. I'm speechless.
Yeah,
Paul, thank you for...
I know, Tom. I taught school, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and every teacher knows about that. But the idea, the notion that the strategy is without a vaccine to just allow the population to become infected has never, ever, ever been a theory of managing disease. Never. So the herd immunity, so-called, and we think of it as a natural phenomenon because herd, that's just four-legged animals that live in herds. No, it's never been a natural thing. That's what's confused me. Where are the shining examples, I wondered, and I didn't find any. And then I found out, this is a vaccination theory. It's not a natural phenomenon. And that's what Donald Trump is basically throwing up his hands and abandoning America to death. And by saying, herd mentality. Well, the herd mentality.
It goes beyond that, Paul.
Donald Trump.
It goes beyond that. I believe that he is using this as a strategy to hold power. And I think that this specter that Jim sent me a note on this morning, that there's all this buzz right now on Facebook about Republicans who are planning to go to polling places without masks, loudly coughing to discourage Democrats from voting. Right? You take that, and then as at the same time that meme is out there, now we have a brand new meme. And this just got rolled out yesterday by the Republicans, by the conservatives, and apparently got rolled out in multiple media. And that is that anybody who wears a mask is a sissy. Any man who wears a mask is actually kind of like a woman, he's a sissy. And you don't want to be a sissy. Nobody wants to be a sissy. And so yesterday, Rush Limbaugh said, and I quote, There's a whole lot of people fed up with the chickification of our culture. And it's not anything to do with anti-woman or anti-feminism or anti-female. And you know, it has to do with the fact that there's an assault on manhood. And this is wearing masks. The Daily Caller, the lead story. The Democratic Party is now the party of women and those who identify with the overly feminine sensibility. There's nothing wrong with this being your cup of tea, of course, but Democrats shouldn't be surprised when young men of all stripes are turned off by a party that is completely devoid of any masculine energy. And then over at the Outkick, the return of Big Ten football is a win for Trump and American masculinity. As long as Trump looks masculine and not weak, he wins. Almost certainly, Wednesday's development will help impact Trump's approval rating in the Midwest. That's talking about the Big Ten. And then here's another one. This is from the American Conservative. The headline, the NFL and bumper sticker totalitarianism. The woke are everywhere on T-shirts, window signs, commercials, school board meetings, supposedly neutral news coverage, literature, art. Now they're out there scrimmaging on the gridiron. So, you know, yeah, don't wear a mask. Show up at the polling place. Cough a lot. Scare away those Democrats. Don't let them vote. I see this coming.
Maybe the Trump administration could start offering testosterone injections. But you can count me in as being a sissy, Tom. Thank you. I'd like to be as smart as a woman. I wish I were. Yeah. Well, and you know, I'm just imagining that little audio clip, Paul, being pulled out of this show and replayed. This is just mind-boggling. And I think, you know, for men who feel emasculated, for men who have lost their jobs, for men who feel like they can't provide for their families now, this is a way of reaching out to them by the Republicans, who are largely responsible for their losing their jobs. And the Republicans are then reaching out to them and say, well, you can still feel like a man, just don't wear a mask. Just go out there and own those libs, right? Paul, I got to run, but thanks for the call. It's 45 minutes past the hour. You know, we'll be back with more on this and your calls. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We will continue this conversation into the second hour. We've got a guest coming up. They're doing some extraordinary media stuff. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Mike in Lomita, California. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind? Thanks for listening to KPFK.
Hey, Tom. Is your air breathable yet?
No, it's not. I'm looking out the window here. I can't see more than maybe 300 yards.
That's too bad. We came down.
We're still over 300 parts per million.
Yeah.
Here in Portland.
Oh, dear.
300 parts per whatever it is, you know, per cubic liter.
Well, be that as it may, the reason I called was the institution of the Trump death clock, which, for those who haven't heard of it, is a display in Times Square, New York, and you can set one up in your own town that shows the number of deaths they attribute to Trump's incompetence and slowness in getting launched on COVID-19. And they're very generous to Trump in the estimates they make, but the number they have up now, 117,844, when I looked last, is in the range of about 50% of the Americans killed by Adolf Hitler in World War II. And it seems that as bad as that is, in terms of the rate, the average deaths per day in World War II of American service persons was 220, and currently under COVID-19, the number is 935. So Trump is a much faster acting agent than Hitler was in terms of killing Americans. In fact, since I can't afford or would take the risk of putting up my own Trump death claw in the front yard, I wore this shirt out, which is pre-printed and then says, you know, to Trump death clock, today's toll, and then put a strip of adhesive tape across there and write on the number. And then on the back, there's a picture of Trump doing the scowly face, and across the top it says, "Death to America, Trump 2020. And that got a couple of comments yesterday. one person found it greatly amusing. In any event, if we were considering this a sporting contest, and you had one side that scored 7 points, and a competitor scored 597 points, you would tend to figure that the person that scored 7 was either incompetent or not trying. And if we go to compare two countries in this way, say U.S., number of deaths per million from COVID-19 since the 20th of January is 597. South Korea is 7. So all of this is incredible unless you adopt the attitude that maybe Trump really is just what he might seem to be, an agent of Lucretia Putin. And any damage that's done to this country or its status in the world is strictly along the lines of what he was hired to do.
Well, we definitely and seriously have a problem if it's true that Donald Trump and Scott Atlas are pursuing a herd immunity strategy for the United States. Particularly given we've got this guy in Las Vegas now who got a second infection that hospitalized him as a result of having first been infected with the Asian strain of the coronavirus and then infected with the European strain 4 months later. I mean, that means that it's like the coronavirus that is the common cold. It mutates and you don't transfer protections. Mike, thanks for the call. We'll be right back. Stick around. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And what an amazing time we live in. One of the founders of the progressive next-gen super PAC, Midas Touch, which has produced just some extraordinary videos. It's run by 3 brothers who are living in quarantine. Midas Touch, MEIDAS touch.com is the website and also the Twitter handle. Brent Meisalas is on the line with us. And Brent, number one, thanks and congratulations on your great videos. And number two, you've got a show coming up here on SiriusXM. We're, of course, on SiriusXM right now on SiriusXM Progress. Tell us about your videos, what inspired that, and tell us about your new show.
Hey, Tom, first of all, big fan. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to talk to you about Midas Touch Radio coming this weekend on SiriusXM. Yes, I mean, like you said, we're 3 brothers. We started this in quarantine just as concerned citizens. We, like everybody else, were watching the news. We were frustrated. We were screaming at each other. And at a certain point, we realized, is there anything that could be done about the state of the country? And so we put our minds together, my older brother, Ben, being an attorney who most notably represents Colin Kaepernick and has done a bunch of civil rights cases, my younger brother, who's a marketing expert based out of New York, and me, who I worked for 5 years as a digital editor at the Ellen DeGeneres Show and ran digital media for a sports league. And we said, let's combine those talents and let's do something to impact this election and have our voice be heard. And so we started it as a blog. Midas Touch started as a blog and quickly evolved into us making these videos, which really just quickly and immediately took off. And that was, it feels like a long time ago, but it's really not. By the time our first video released, it was probably around April 15th. We're now a few months later. We've made over 80 ads against President Trump and for Joe Biden. And we've gained a lot of traction online. And we're just really thankful for the support. And we just hope we're making our small part to help impact democracy and help save it.
That's great, and it is pronounced, or it is spelled rather, more like your last name than the old king. It's MEIDAS touch.com.
Exactly.
And so Brett, tell us about the show that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so the show we're doing is going to be called Midas Touch Radio. It's airing this Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on SiriusXM Progress. we're really excited to be able to connect with fans in a way that we've never done before. I mean, we've built this huge follower base on Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, but to be able to be live with the fans, talking to them on Sirius is going to add a whole new dimension to it, and we're excited to talk about the stories of the day, talk about issues on people's minds, and once again, just push forward and try to do what we can. We view the current state of the country as an existential crisis, and we need to get Trump out. I mean, that's priority number one, and we need everybody to join us for that ride.
Brett, we've got a couple of, the two top stories that I was digging into this morning in the first hour were, number one, that Trump yesterday in his press conference said, that this election was going to go to Congress. And that's under the 12th Amendment. This happened in 1876 when the Democrat, Sam Tilden, won both the Electoral College and the popular vote, but he didn't hit the Electoral College threshold to win, even though he had more electoral votes. Today, that would be 270 votes. He didn't hit that number, and so it got thrown to the House of Representatives. In the House of Representatives, under the 12th Amendment, each state has one vote, and that one vote is determined not by the members of the U.S. House of Representatives, even though they cast the vote. It's determined by the House and Senate of the individual states. And a majority of individual states are controlled by Republicans, which means Donald Trump gets reelected. He said that yesterday. And I'm just boggled that nobody's talking about that. That is number one. And then number two, that basically, he seems to be pursuing a herd immunity strategy. They're no longer telling states to even recommend masks. And that is going to kill 6 million Americans.
Tom?
Yeah, no, I got it. So, Brett, we've just got a minute and a half or so here until we hit the break at the end of the hour. But I'm curious, with those kinds of raw material, how long does it take you guys to produce a video, and how do you decide what to do?
I'll say we have two sort of sets of videos. We have the videos that are hitting sort of bigger picture issues, and then we have the videos that are more rapid response style videos that we're trying to take over the news cycle and take the oxygen out of Trump's news cycle before he gets a chance to spin the narrative and spread disinformation. And so probably one of the best and most recent examples was yesterday. We released a video called One Trick Phony, which covered the exact press conference you're talking about, and it put it side by side with the director of the CDC and his statements, where Trump was saying, oh, yeah, the director of the CDC, he must have been confused. Wearing a mask, I don't know about wearing a mask. Vaccine will probably come super quick. When we have the president of the United States who is spreading that kind of disinformation, that really leads to the deaths of now hundreds of thousands of Americans, and is going to lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of more, if we pursue this herd immunity / mentality, whatever he wants to call it, way of approaching the virus. We're in big trouble. So I think it's important that we control the narrative and that we get our voices out there, and that we expose the truth about what's going on. I mean, we've never before had a president so willfully try to misinform the American public, and he admitted it himself. And the sad thing is, we were all shocked that he admitted that he knew it back then. He still knows it now. He's still downplaying it to this day. We should be equally as outraged today as we are that he was downplaying the virus back in February.
Yeah, and it sure looks to me like that herd immunity strategy, which, we had a caller earlier who was pointing out that herd immunity was not a thing. I mean, it was a theory that was developed by vaccine manufacturers in the early part of the 20th century, but it's never been demonstrated to work in any natural setting with any natural disease.
Especially because diseases, like we see with the flu, viruses mutate. There's no way for everybody to get this so-called herd immunity. And all it's going to do is, herd immunity is code for I'm giving up. That's basically what Trump's saying.
Well, if you want to play golf and watch Fox News all day, that's what you do, right? You give up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what he's doing. I mean, the guy doesn't do much. He sits there, he watches Fox, he plays golf, and he doesn't want to help the American people. He has no plan. He's trying to take away people's health care. He's got to be stopped. We got to vote for Joe Biden.
There you go. Brett Meisalas, MEIDAS, touch.com is the website, also the Twitter handle, and the show Saturdays on SiriusXM. Brett, thanks a lot for dropping by. Good luck.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to being on Sirius. Thank
Tom.
You.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. More information at carshield.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
It's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive Thursday. Please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV stay on the air. This is our great network. It's got great content. It's an important piece of our media landscape. I would say a vital piece. You'll get information here you don't get anywhere else, or you'll get the deep dives here that generally you don't see anywhere else. Free Speech TV is really an important voice for not just a progressive point of view or even a Democratic point of view, but for an American point of view, for a pro-American point of view, for American values, or at least what we once thought were American values. So please, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. Please call now and make your contribution. This is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for many of us. At least I can breathe a little better today. The air here in Portland has gotten a little better, but it's just tough. It's tough all over the country, and it's tough for the folks at Free Speech TV too. Many of them, most of them, I think, are working remotely. It's difficult for them. But financially, it's a very difficult time for the network. It happens every 4 years, basically. We really have a challenge raising money, because there are so many, politicians and good causes, great causes, that are competing essentially with us for the funds that we need every 3-4 months to keep the lights on, to keep the electrons flowing, to keep things working. So it's a tough one. Tip of the hat to Mike from San Francisco. He has picked up all of our hard costs. He also tossed in a $10,000 match yesterday, and thank you, Mike, for that. A lot of people made a contribution, and if you're one of them, thank you. And Andrew from San Diego has got a $10,000 match for us if we hit our goal at the end of this fund drive. So we are moving as fast and as hard as we can toward that. So now would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669 and make your contribution. If you get value from Free Speech TV, is it worth $5 to you? $5 a month even? In fact, the monthly contributions are some of the absolutely most important, because that allows Free Speech TV to budget. I think yesterday we had fewer than $100 in monthly contributions. Monthly contributions are really the very best. Even, for example, if you're thinking, well, I can give $100, instead make it $10 a month for a year. Well, that'd be 120, but you get the point. $100 a month for 10 months. You can tell them when to cut it off, or you can just say, hey, every month ding my credit card until I tell you to stop. And they will stop immediately. This isn't one of those, multi-level marketing things or something like that. Everything is right up front. Everything is right out in the open. They don't sell their names or their lists. Free Speech TV doesn't, or anything like that. You're good folks, you can trust them. And monthly contributions are so important to Free Speech TV because they allow the network to plan for the future. In fact, it's pretty much the only way that the network can know, okay, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, here's how much money we're going to have coming in, so this is what we can do with that money. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Fight for Democracy sticker, or the set of 3 stainless steel straws. Yesterday, the air was so bad, I was wearing this mask, and I was thinking, if I had one of those straws, I could just kind of run it up under the mask and drink things. I have some on order, actually. So, from Free Speech TV. That's with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get you have your choice, the Free Speech TV webcam cover, or the tote bag, Change Never Happens from the Top Down, or the postcard deck, the Fight for Democracy postcard deck. With a $75 gift, the only way you can get the official Thom Hartmann Program mug with the $75 gift from Free Speech TV, or the Free Speech TV black hat that has the Free Speech TV logo on it. Excuse me. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV face mask. It says, "What can we grow from crisis?" and which is kind of cool. With a $120 gift, there you have your choice. There's a T-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. You can also make your own if you want to be an evangelist for the network. We need all the help we can get. Or your choice of one of 3 books, either my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, or a Greg Palast book, How Trump Stole 2020, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a really good book, by the way, The Hidden Histories of Monopolies. It's one of the best. I'm so proud of this book. I put a hell of a lot of work into it. I think you'll really like it. Heck of a lot of work, excuse me. With a $240 gift, we've got the virtual meet and greets on October 14th and November 18th. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with the bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the tote bag, the postcards, and the Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. But bottom line, call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you. They need your help. Please call now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So now that we learned that the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC are no longer recommending to states, as their coronavirus infection rates spiral into the red zone, that they suggest that people wear masks or require that people wear masks. Now that the White House has backed away from that, and that Donald Trump and Scott Atlas, the Fox News radiologist, who is his apparently his senior coronavirus advisor, are openly suggesting that what we need is herd mentality, aka herd immunity. Let everybody in America, or 70% of America, get sick with this disease, kill off 6 million Americans, permanently disable 20, 30, 40 million Americans with everything from strokes to heart disease to dementia. What will that look like in our economy? How does an economy work in a situation like that? On the line with us, Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, the co-founder of Democracy at Work, the author of numerous books, including his most recent one, which speaks right to this issue. It's titled The Sickness is the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself. You can find the information at democracyatwork.info. Also rdwolf with 2fs.com. His Twitter handle is Prof Wolf, as in Professor Wolf. Professor Wolff, welcome back. You heard my setup. Your thoughts?
Well, it is grim, but there is no way to pretend otherwise. Here's what this kind of proposal from the president and I'll be polite, I'll call them his advisors. Here's what it means. You put this many people out of commission, either by killing them or by making them sick and unable to work. What you're doing is you're crippling the economy. You know, the way an economy works is the mass of people do work, and they produce output. A portion of the output the mass of people produce is given back to them for their consumption, their food, their clothing, their shelter, and all of that. The rest of it, which economists used to call surplus, what's produced by the working people over and above what they get back as wages, that's what is available for everything else. For all the people that aren't working, whether they be children or the elderly, for all the people whose work really isn't the production of goods and services, but other types of things. The system depends on that surplus. How rich you are, what kind of culture and politics you can support. If you undercut the foundation of the working class, which is what he's proposing to allow to happen, you are at the very least going to severely crunch the standard of living, the ability of this system to reproduce itself, or, and this is a certain possibility now, you're literally going to bring the system down. Let me try to get it across with a metaphor. In the 14th century, European feudalism, the system of lords and serfs on feudal manners, suffered a pandemic virus. It was called the bubonic plague. It was called the Black Death. It was carried by fleas who were in turn carried by rats, and it killed hundreds of millions of people. It meant that millions and millions of serfs were no longer farming the land because they were dead or sick. And because of that, they not only didn't produce the goods that could have sustained them, but they didn't produce the surplus that went to the lords and that kept the whole of feudalism going. Feudalism's decline begins then. It is followed quickly by the Renaissance, which is a breaking away of Southern Europe, particularly Italy, then the Reformation, which splits European feudalism in the two religions, and it's downhill from there until the French and American revolutions toll the end of feudalism. What we are watching now, particularly with this management by Mr. Trump and his cronies to get reelected, is the breaking down of this system as you cripple the mass of people whose labor is what keeps it going.
Yeah, it is truly breathtaking. I don't even know where to go from that. I mean, what would it look like in the United? I suppose you'd have a realignment of our business structure. You'll have fewer TGI Fridays and Holiday Inns and more drive-in funeral parlors. I mean, what, in a more micro sense, what would the economy look like if this disease just ran rampant and people were constantly getting sick and many people and by the way, how do we, if we know that, there was a study out of the UK where they looked at recovered COVID patients, people who had not been so severely sick that they required intubation. Some of them had been hospitalized to give them oxygen. Most of them were not. So they had mild to moderate cases. They looked at the months after they had recovered, and they found that 80% of them had lasting damage to their hearts, and about 30% of them still had heart infections, still had active, myocardial whatever it's called, an infection of the heart muscle. What does that look like?
Well, here's some of the micro-level consequences. A battle royal developed in feudalism because the serfs couldn't deliver surplus to the lords. Well, then the lords, in turn, couldn't pay back the moneylenders from whom they had borrowed the money that enabled them to grow their landed estates and bring more serfs on and on and on. Flash forward right now. The landlords and the tenants in America, residential tenants, they're gearing up for a major catastrophe come the end of this year, given what Trump has done. Evictions will start. Tenants will be dragged into court by the landlords. The banks are going to drag into court the landlords because they're not paying back. The same is happening with commercial renters. We have no idea how these struggles provoked in the first place by people unable to pay their rent because they cannot deal with their illnesses and their infirmities at the same time that they struggle with their jobs. The Europeans, by the way, explained that they did not throw tens of millions of people out of work the way we did in the United States, in part to prevent all of this kind of sequential dislocation from unfolding. The lunacy here was to give 55 million people their walking papers, put them on unemployment, uncertain life ahead of them, making them hunker down, not make payments, whether it be for rent or mortgage. So you're seeing already, as it plays out, the failure of people to be able to produce means they don't have the incomes they had before, which means they can't make the payments they were obligated to make, which ramifies the crisis all over the place. And that's how you go from the failure to prepare for and manage a disease into wholesale economic decline.
So Trump is asserting, and we have a little less than a minute, Professor Wolf, Trump is essentially asserting that this will get the economy back on track if he just does his little herd immunity thing and the virus just magically goes away. What say you?
The nonsense is unspeakable. He said there was no crisis with the disease when it first came. We now know from the book that he knew very well how devastating it was. He needs to say that the economy is okay because his election depends on that. So at any moment, the economy is about to get better, or we've turned a corner, or it won't make a difference, or it'll go away. It's an endless mantra, hoping against hope that he can slither through in early November, and then, as the French king said about himself before the French Revolution, après moi le déluge, which means in English, after me the collapse comes. That's Mr. Trump.
Wow. Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, his newest book, The Sickness in the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself. You can get the information over at democracyatwork.info. Professor Wolff, thanks so much for dropping by.
Thank you, Tom.
Great talking with you, as always. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the True People's Media. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. And welcome back. Dave in Las Vegas. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Mr. Hartmann, thanks again. Okay, what you brought up this morning about if the Republican Trump strategy is to decertify, get the Republican governors to a majority vote Trump into the,
it wouldn't be the governors; it would be the state legislatures. The governors have no say in it. But yeah, keep going.
Oh, okay, the state. Okay, so it goes to the House. Could the House then, rather than go along with this fiasco, just move to impeach him right then? And then you force the Senate to explain to the American people how they're going to let Trump steal the vote away from the American people.
Yeah. David, I wish it was that simple or that straightforward. The House rules, and, of course, a majority of members of the House can always amend their rules, but the House rules basically say that the impeachment, and this is how it's always worked, say that the impeachment, any impeachment proceeding must begin in the Judiciary Committee. There's this one committee that, kind of oversees law in America. And, the Law and Order Committee, the Judiciary Committee. And they would have to, and this is the committee that referred out the articles of impeachment to the full House. The full House, the committee then comes to the House and makes their sales pitch, makes a case against the president. They hold the trial in the House, but the Judiciary Committee issues the indictment, essentially. And then the trial is held in the House of Representatives. And if the president is convicted in that trial, he is impeached. It doesn't mean he's been removed from office, but he is impeached. He is convicted. He is certified as a criminal. And then they pass that to the Senate to see if the Senate wants to actually remove him from office. And in this case, obviously, the Senate said no. And I would submit to you, Dave, that if they try this again, you'll have the same result. It's not gonna work. So, Dave, I salute your enthusiasm and spot on, but I just don't see how it plays out. Dave, thanks for the call. John in Hillsboro, Oregon. Hey, John, how are you doing there in Hillsboro?
Hi. Well, smoky as ever, I can't even walk my little doggy without, coughing. But anyway, all right, here we go. What I've heard from some political pundits, at least 40 to 42% of people are hardcore Trumpers, and so they will vote for it. Then I heard on an economic level that because of this virus, even if we do get over it or whatever, there's going to be over 42% of people who are going to be permanently unemployed because of how the virus has kind of destroyed the service industry and et cetera, et cetera. So my whole question is, okay, if Trump wins, he's not going to help the 42% who are permanently unemployed. If Biden wins, Biden will probably use the option of what FDR did back in 35 and do, like CCC, WPA.
Right,
and
put people
those
back to work
42%
with government
will
jobs.
Get some relief doing the new Green Deal. So my whole thing is,
I'm listening, John. Sean, did John vanish or did I?
Beg your pardon?
John disappeared. Okay, I'm glad I did. Okay, it sounds like John just vanished. Anyhow, it's 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be back. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Daily rants and weekly op-eds at HartmannReport.com. It's free and there's no ads. HartmannReport.com. So it turns out back in November, the spy agencies in the United States were notifying the Trump administration that something's going on in China. Looks like another SARS outbreak. Maybe we should get ready for this. It was ignored. I've got a new video up over at ThomHartmann.com for the supporters of our program that basically goes through the whole timeline. All the way from, actually going back to 2018 when Trump disbanded 3 different anti-pandemic agencies in the Department of Homeland Security, the National Security Council, and the executive branch. Just closed them down, fired the people. That was the end of that. How he ignored the intelligence in November, he ignored the intelligence in December, he ignored the epidemic now coming into the United States in January, he ignored it in February, just going the blow-by-blow timeline. And I think it's really worth having it all in one place, a good recap, a good summary of this that you can refer to and you can share with your friends. It's all over at ThomHartmann.com. You can check it out. So I mentioned in the previous hour that, all this right-wing media is talking about, Rush Limbaugh yesterday, it's the chickification of America, Daily Caller talking about the sissification, basically, Democrats are sissies. They want to wear masks. They want to hide. They're like scared little girls. This is the new meme that they're promoting in right-wing media. And of course, it's going to kill a bunch of people. But, that doesn't matter. Over on Reddit, this was floating all over the internet a week or so ago, and it's worth sharing. It's the original person who posted it on Reddit was called Sty in Your Eye, S-T-Y in Your Eye, and he said, "You don't get it. I live in Trump country in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, one of the last places where the Klan still has a relatively strong established presence. They don't give a damn what he does. He's just something to rally around and hate liberals. That's it. Period. If you keep getting caught up in why do they not realize blah, 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 and how can they still back him blah, 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 you are not understanding what is the underlying motivating factor of his support. It's screwing liberals, owning liberals. That's pretty much it. Have you noticed you can do pretty much anything imaginable and they'll explain some way that rationalizes it that makes zero logical sense? Because they're not even keeping track of any logical narrative. It's irrelevant. Owning liberals is the only relevant thing. Trust me, I know firsthand what I'm talking about. He says, look at the thing with not wearing the mask. I can tell you what that's about. It's about exposing fear. They're playing chicken with nature. And whoever flinches just moved down their internal pecking order one step closer to being a liberal. You got to understand the one core value that they hold above all others is hatred for what they consider weakness, because that's what they believe strength is, hatred for weakness. And I mean passionate, sadistic hatred. And I'm not exaggerating, believe me, sadistic, passionate hatred. And that's what they think proves that they're strong. Their passionate hatred for weakness. Sometimes they lump in vulnerability, a compromised circumstance, or an overwhelming circumstance in with their weakness too, because people tend to start humbling themselves when they're in those circumstances, and that's an obvious sign of weakness. Kindness equals weakness. Honesty equals weakness. Compromise equals weakness. They consider their very existence to be superior in every way to anyone who doesn't hate weakness as much as they do. They consider liberals to be weak people who are inferior, almost a different species. And the fact that liberals are so weak is why they have to unite in large numbers, which they find disgusting, but it's that disgust that is the true expression of their natural superiority. He wraps it up. He says, go ahead and try to have a logical, rational conversation with them, though. Just keep in mind what I said here and think about it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what's going on. It's amazing. Andrew in London, Ontario, Canada. Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I just wondered if you've ever heard of the International Democrat Union.
Democrat or Democratic?
It's called the International Democrat Union. Quite
Never heard of it.
Of course. Yeah, they are an organization of conservative parties around the world who coordinate and work together to elect conservatives in countries around the world. And they're run by Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister of Canada, and member states include the Republicans, Boris Johnson's Conservatives, Modi's, BJP, Morrison in Australia, Netanyahu's Likud Party, and they are coordinating. They are the reason that this division, this Trumpism is on the rise. They are the ones that are promoting it, and they have mainlined it to almost 80 countries in the world where they operate. Bolsonaro is one of them.
This is an all-out assault on democracy, Andrew, if what you're describing is accurate.
It is a global fascist movement.
Do they have a website?
Yes, they do. And they're on Twitter at IDU Alliance. And their goal is to promote, they say their goal is to promote conservatism around the world and conservative ideals. But really what they're doing is assaulting democracy in every country that they can get a foothold. And Trump is not an aberration. He is a member, the Republican Party
he's
is
a role model.
member of... Yes, exactly. He is exactly like Boris Johnson, if you notice, who Boris Johnson once suggested herd immunity at the start, but they have such a strong public health program in the UK that he couldn't get away with it the way that Trump does in America. Yeah. Trump is basically...
Well, they were watching the National Health Service melt down in some communities that were getting high levels of infection, and that produced such a backlash that Johnson had to back down.
Yes, exactly. And
I don't see that happening in India.
Well, India's hurting just as bad as Brazil. They're on the rise as well. And
I know.
Like the
amazing. Andrew, thanks for the heads up on that. I'm sorry, we're hitting a break here. I got to wrap this up. But the International Democrat Union, you said?
Yes,
IDU?
100%.
Okay, yeah. I will do my homework on this. Andrew, thanks for the heads up. And thanks for listening to Sirius XM there in London, Ontario, Canada. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with your calls and more of the news of the day right after this break. Stick around. It's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive Thursday. Please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV stay on the air. This is a great network. It's got great content. It's an important piece of our media landscape. I would say a vital piece. You'll get information here you don't get anywhere else, or you'll get the deep dives here that generally you don't see anywhere else. Free Speech TV is really an important voice for not just a progressive point of view or even a democratic point of view, but for an American point of view, for a pro-American point of view, for American values, or at least what we once thought were American values. So please, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. Please call now and make your contribution. This is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for many of us. At least I can breathe a little better today. The air here in Portland has gotten a little better, but it's just tough. It's tough all over the country, and it's tough for the folks at Free Speech TV too. Many of them, most of them, I think, are working remotely. It's difficult for them. But financially, it's a very difficult time for the network. It happens every 4 years, basically. We really have a challenge raising money, because there are so many, politicians and good causes, great causes, that are competing essentially with us for the funds that we need every 3-4 months to keep the lights on, to keep the electrons flowing, to keep things working. So it's a tough one. Tip of the hat to Mike from San Francisco. He has picked up all of our hard costs. He also tossed in a $10,000 match yesterday, and thank you, Mike, for that. A lot of people made a contribution, and if you're one of them, thank you. And Andrew from San Diego has got a $10,000 match for us if we hit our goal at the end of this fund drive. So we are moving as fast and as hard as we can toward that. So now would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669 and make your contribution. If you get value from Free Speech TV, is it worth $5 to you? $5 a month even? In fact, the monthly contributions are some of the absolutely most important, because that allows Free Speech TV to budget. I think yesterday we had fewer than $100 in monthly contributions. Monthly contributions are really the very best. Even, for example, if you're thinking, I can give $100, instead make it $10 a month for a year. Well, that'd be $120, but you get the point. $100 a month for 10 months. You can tell them when to cut it off, or you can just say, hey, every month ding my credit card until I tell you to stop. And they will stop immediately. This isn't one of those, multi-level marketing things or something like that. Everything is right up front. Everything is right out in the open. They don't sell their names or their lists. Free Speech TV doesn't, or anything like that. You're good folks, you can trust them. And monthly contributions are so important to Free Speech TV because they allow the network to plan for the future. In fact, it's pretty much the only way that the network can know, okay, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, here's how much money we're going to have coming in, so this is what we can do with that money. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Fight for Democracy sticker, or the set of 3 stainless steel straws. Yesterday, the air was so bad, I was wearing this mask, and I was thinking, if I had one of those straws, I could just kind of run it up under the mask and drink things. I have some on order, actually. So, from Free Speech TV. That's with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get you have your choice, the Free Speech TV webcam cover, or the tote bag, Change Never Happens from the Top Down, or the postcard deck, the Fight for Democracy postcard deck. With a $75 gift, the only way you can get the official Thom Hartmann Program mug with the $75 gift from Free Speech TV, or the Free Speech TV black hat that has the Free Speech TV logo on it. Excuse me. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV face mask. It says, what can we grow from crisis? And which is kind of cool. With a $120 gift, there you have your choice. There's a t-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. You can also make your own if you want to be an evangelist for the network. We need all the help we can get. Or your choice of one of 3 books, either my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, or Greg Palast's book, How Trump Stole 2020, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a really good book, by the way, The Hidden Histories of Monopolies. It's one of the best. I'm so proud of this book. I put a hell of a lot of work into it. I think you'll really like it. Heck of a lot of work, excuse me. With a $240 gift, we've got the virtual meet and greets on October 14th and November 18th. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with the bumper sticker, the democracy sticker, the tote bag, the postcards, and the Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. But bottom line, call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you. They need your help. Please call now. Thank you. On the Science Revolution this week, Dr. Michael Mann is here on climate change and the West on fire. Plus, there's a new study showing planet Earth may temporarily pass a dangerous 1.5 degrees Celsius warming limit by the middle of the next decade. This is a huge warning to us all. Former EPA official Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali drops by to warn us about creating an apocalyptic, devastated planet. Attorney for Earth Justice Bradley Marshall is here informing us about bomb trains. Earth Justice has just filed a legal challenge to stop them. And in Geeky Science, I'm looking at why the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine study was put on hold. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. "34 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Amazing what's going on. Robert in Orlando, Florida. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, how's it going? I wanted to ask you, what your thoughts were. Do you think that any country, particularly a first world country that resigns itself to 2 to 6 million of any population segment, basically to death, do you think that any society like that is sustainable?
No. And I think that what that will do is produce a massive crisis. I think that, in my opinion, I'm increasingly becoming convinced that Donald Trump isn't just trying to hang on to power, but he is also trying to destroy the United States. I've been very reluctant to say that in the past. It just sounds so over the top. It sounds so tinfoil hat. But I can't come to any other conclusion. I mean, this is very, very straightforward. And by the way, that 6 million dead that Rachel Maddow was talking about last night and that I was quoting earlier, Gary A.D. over at the Daily Kos has a diary up today titled "Rachel Maddow's Math is Wrong. It's much, much worse." And he makes the point that in the United States, we have that Rachel was basing her 2.97% fatality rate on the number of active or diagnosed cases that we have, but lots of those cases are recently diagnosed, and so those people haven't reached the point where they get so sick that they die yet. And if we pull them out of the equation and just look at the number of closed cases and divide that by the number of dead people, we end up with a 4.6% fatality rate from this disease, which means if it was 300 million people, it'll be slightly less than 300 million people to get herd immunity if that old vaccine theory holds true. And we have no evidence that that's the case right now, but if it does. So, if we're looking at almost 5% of 3 million people, that's what, 15 million dead? So, certainly more than 10 million dead. That's the new strategy that Donald Trump is doing. This is why the CDC is no longer recommending that states recommend the use of masks. It's why Donald Trump is slapping down Robert Redfield when he says, a mask is more effective than a vaccine. It's why you've got right-wing media now telling people that they are telling their predominantly male audience. And I know this from, working in the radio industry. The majority of people who listen to right-wing talk radio are men. I mean, it's a huge percentage. and over women for right-wing talk radio. And so you've got on right-wing talk radio, Rush Limbaugh and all these other guys say, you wear a mask, you're a sissy. That's girls do that, These people are afraid. And by the way, go to the polls without a mask and cough a lot and make a lot of noise and you'll scare away the libs. And this is nuts stuff that is I believe increasingly is being done to destroy this country. These guys hate the idea of democracy. They hate the idea of a country whose first priority is its own people and its working people. They want an oligarchy. They want a nation. This is we've got a billionaire in the White House. He's got billionaires in his cabinet. This is, and every single other member of his cabinet who's not a billionaire is a multi-millionaire. And you've got, Mitch McConnell, who's worth what, $400 million. His wife Elaine Chao, worth that or more in the cabinet. There's a transportation secretary. You've got, the Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross. He's a billionaire. You've got Betsy DeVos, a billionaire. They want an America that is safe and good for billionaires and to hell with everybody else. And if 10 million Americans have to die to get there, okay, no problem. And that's just.
I mean, Donald Trump aside, as a country, from a moral and psychological standpoint, I just don't see that a populace can survive with that sort of trauma. It's unheard of. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
That's my concern.
Yeah,
that's absolutely my concern, Robert. I mean, this is, if you read the history of the rise of Hitler in Germany, or Mussolini in Italy for that matter, they both rose out of the ashes of number one, World War I, but number two, and more importantly, a worldwide depression. And Trump is going to throw us into something far worse than that. And I think he figures if he gets reelected, that's great. He can use the chaos to consolidate his power and steal everything. He just billed the Secret Service $1 million for his hotel rooms yesterday, or it was reported yesterday. So he gets richer and he gets more powerful and he doesn't have to go to jail. And on the other hand, if he doesn't win the election, if somehow, it doesn't get thrown to the House or whatever, if all of his little, squeezy buddies and, all these or skeezy buddies in the various Republican-controlled states, can't pull that off and Joe Biden becomes president, he's going to inherit a wasteland. An absolute wasteland with millions of people dead and dying, and businesses collapsing, and an economy in shambles, and Trump is going to walk off, dusting his hands off, and go off and build his Trump Tower in Moscow and say, "See you guys later, suckers," or go to Slovenia where his wife and his son are both citizens. I mean, is that really what's going on? It's insane. Robert, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Paul in Ellsbury, Missouri. Hey, Paul, what's up?
I saw on the national news where Dr. Atlas, they had a story about Dr. Atlas, and the Sanford Medical College put out a disclaimer saying that he did graduate from their college, but the college does not believe in his belief of herd immunity, or the majority of the doctors there do not agree either. And so also in St. Louis County here in Missouri, there's a group of parents that are protesting to the county administrator, and parents want their kids to go back to playing sports so they can go to college with a degree, a scholarship, and that they're promoting that the Dr. Atlas is what they're basing being able to come back to playing, and that the parents believe that because when they were growing up, they didn't get shots for chicken pox or measles, and the reason was that way they would not, if they caught it, they would be immune the rest of their lives. Right. They thought. Right. So that's what they're basing.
But this is not chicken pox or measles. I mean, those are very, very stable viruses that don't mutate, and this is a virus that human beings have literally never seen before. Chickenpox and measles have been circulating in the human, among the human population for the better part of around 4,000 years. Or maybe it's 1,000 years. It's something in that. In fact, actually, I think it's less than 1,000 years. But nonetheless, we have had long exposure to them, and we've figured it out. This is a brand new virus, and we have no friggin' idea what it's what it's going to look like a year from now or 2 years from now, how it's going to mutate, or whether our immunity will transfer from one strain to another. Apparently, it doesn't. If this guy who's has had to be re-hospitalized in Las Vegas is any indication. Paul, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Mayor in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Hey, Mayor, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Well, back in 1966, I was in 6th grade, and that's when Mao Zedong was doing his Cultural Revolution, and I just didn't understand, why is he doing this chaos, and these thugs are running around in China. Oh, my God. Trump is out of the same playbook. He's pulling a Mao Zedong. And it's all on.
I remember the Cultural Revolution, and I remember the famine that it produced. But Mao did consolidate power and created the foundation for what you'd call the modern China. But I don't, and I know that, it was a revolution. We had a revolution here in the 1700s. You read Jimmy Carter's novel about it, or any good history, and it was a time of chaos too. Not sure I see the exact parallels, though, Mayor.
Well, the militias, these right-wing thugs on the street countering the Black Lives Matter.
You're absolutely right. That's how Mao did it. That's right. He yes.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's pulling them up. This is right out of Roger Stone's playbook, because he seems to think along those lines. And to paraphrase the Paul Newman in the car wash scene in Cool Hand Luke, he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, even saying herd immunity, that was on purpose, or herd mentality, that was on purpose to get everybody talking about, oh, he made a mistake, instead of saying, oh my God, he wants us all to get sick. See, he got us to look at something else. He distracted us from the actual.
Well, I don't think it was that slick, Mayor. I think he intended to. I think he started to actually say herd immunity, and then he realized that has been so discredited. Even Anders Tegnell, the guy who suggested it in Sweden, is refusing to use that phrase any longer. They're talking about broad population immunity now instead. But yeah, I get it. Mayor, thanks for the call. I love these little historical punctuation marks, and thank you very much for that. We'll be back. It's 45 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Back with more of your calls and the news of the day in just a moment. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. Thom Hartmann here with you. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Let's see here. Heidi in Bellevue, Washington. Hey, Heidi, thanks for listening to KBCS. What's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I was thinking you were talking about how if Trump stays in office, Social Security disability will be used up in 6 months. And so I thought the really
3 months.
Pernicious thing, 3 months. Oh, 3 months. So I thought the really pernicious thing about the virus, the COVID, is, at the same time, we're going to have millions of people who survive it, that are permanently disabled and can't work just when they get rid of Social Security disability. And I just wanted to point out, Richard Wolff said that the plague was a virus. It was actually a bacteria. It's still with us. It's just treated with antibiotics.
Heidi, can you get your mouth a little closer to the microphone? I'm having a hard time understanding you.
What I was saying is that the pernicious thing about this herd immunity is that they're going to get rid of, you said Social Security disability in 3 months.
Right, I got that.
So, and this is just when we're going to have people who will survive COVID-19, but they will be disabled and unable to work.
Right.
And the other thing that I wanted to point out is Richard Wolff said the bubonic plague was caused by a virus. It's actually a bacteria, and the plague is still with us. It's just treated with
antibiotics. Yersinia pestis, isn't that the name of the bacteria?
Excuse me, Yersinia pestis, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's been, that was high school biology, but I remember. It's great. Okay, Heidi, thank you very much. Spot on. I'm totally with you. And thank you for that. Johnny in Galveston, Texas. Hey, Johnny, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. In reference to that, while I was listening to your waiting on hold here, in reference to Paul and or Mayor, it's a 50% chance that he could have had a Freudian slip. Maybe he said herd mentality, but he was thinking herd immunity, which really was mob mentality / mob rule. But that's not why I called it.
I think we're overthinking it, Johnny. I think he was going to say herd immunity, and he has heard from people around him that you just don't use that phrase in polite company. And so he caught himself, and but who knows? It doesn't matter that much. I think what matters is that what he was describing, and he described it to George Stephanopoulos. He said, when a certain percentage of the population gets sick, the virus disappears. Well, it doesn't literally happen that way, but it appears. I mean, if you look at like measles and chickenpox, when a certain percentage of the population gets sick, the transmission of that slows down. But most people don't die from measles or chickenpox. But they're still serious enough diseases that we're inoculating people against them now. Kids, we didn't have those vaccines back in the 50s, but we've had them since the 60s. And I
wouldn't parse too much what he says. You're correct. I'm just more worried about the people at the other end at home, his minion, who they're going to interpret as mob mentality. Oh, mob rule. Let's go do it. But the reason I'm asking, I called you, is I'm curious about what you said an hour ago about the state of Florida and a hypothetical you brought up about the way the electoral process would go down.
Right. Well, I was just randomly.
Said that it's possible that maybe the Secretary of State of Florida could nullify their results, and thus all 50 states legislatures would have.
No, it would take enough states doing it that they couldn't hit 270 electoral votes. Johnny, I got to run. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So last night, Donald Trump says the election's going to go to Congress. Democrats, are you listening? Democratic Party, are you listening? Tom Perez, are you listening? Somebody needs to pay attention. Number one. Number two, Donald Trump has now been accused of, what is this, number 32? Number 29? I've lost count. Another woman says that Donald Trump sexually attacked her. She was 24 years old at the time. It was on September 5th, 1997 at the U.S. Open in Trump's VIP box, and he grabbed her as she came out of the bathroom and shoved his tongue down her throat and had his hands all over her body, her breasts, her butt, et cetera, et cetera. And she has just now come out and said, I got to tell the world about this. This guy is a monster, basically, is what is what she's arguing. Number one. Number two, we've got the U.S. Postal Service in April put together a plan. The idea, and this was actually coming out of the coronavirus task force. This was all. I think this was probably all before the April 7th date. If you're a subscriber to the New York Times or the Washington Post, you can go back and look at the newspapers for those days, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Or any newspaper, your hometown newspaper. They all picked up the story. It was an AP story. It was all over that black people and brown people were dying more rapidly in greater percentages than white people. And that was when this just came to a screeching halt. But before that, the White House coronavirus task force, being headed up by Mike Pence, was actually planning on using the Defense Production Act to order the manufacture of face masks, and the post office was going to ship them to people. U.S. Postal Service leaders drafted a news release announcing their plan to distribute 650 million masks nationwide, enough to offer every face covering to every American household. They were going to send them to the hardest hit areas first, including Orleans and Jefferson parishes in Louisiana, King County, Washington, Wayne County, Michigan, and New York State, according to the newly unearthed document. Amazing. But Trump is now saying, it doesn't matter. It's going to go to Congress. They're going to decide the election anyway. And then, so where does that go? Patrick in Seaside, California. Hey, Patrick, what's up?
Hey, before I make my point, Tom, do you know when Ro Khanna is going to be on again?
I don't. Sean just said in my ear tomorrow.
Oh, I can't call twice in 1 week. Well, maybe next week, because I want to talk to him about Proposition 15. But my point is, talking about going
Patrick,
to the House of
just mention it to Joyce, and she'll give you a pass.
I wanted to say that how are we not screwed, Tom? Because if I'm not mistaken, 32 out of 50 state legislatures are controlled by the Republicans. It might be 31. I think Alaska is split, and then the remainder states are Democrat-controlled. So if every Republican state, even if Biden wins each Republican state by a landslide, or most of them, what if all 32 Republican states, or the ones that vote for Biden, just refuse to, what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Certify their elections. Certify their electoral slates. Their slate of electors.
Then Trump ends up stealing the election in the House of Representatives by a 32-state landslide. How are we?
Right, as I've been predicting since March. As I have been predicting since March, yes, absolutely. And by the way, you may have say, and this is just some random hypothetical state, right, that I'm pulling out of my imagination. But let's say that you've got a state where you've got a Republican majority in the state House of 50 members, 50 Republican person majority, and in the state Senate, that Senate is controlled by Democrats, and they've got a 30-person majority in the Senate. The Democrats do. In your scenario, Patrick, I think you think that would be a split vote, half for Trump, half not. Not true. The way it works, the way the 12th Amendment works, and the amendment to the 12th Amendment, essentially, which was the law that was passed in 1878 to update the election laws with regard to the 12th Amendment, the total population of the state House and the state Senate get combined, and everybody gets one vote. So you've got 50 more Republicans in the House, you've got 20 or 30 more Democrats in the Senate. So that means that ultimately you're going to have a 20 or 30 majority Republicans in the combined body. And that combined body is what casts its vote for the elector for that state. So I have not gone through on a state-by-state basis and added these up. It's been on my to-do list for a long time.
So it's not. So you combine both houses in each state legislature, not each House of Representatives. State House.
That's correct. Right. So the Michigan House and the Michigan Senate get combined,
But I think 30.
So I think that you've got an even larger majority of Republicans, is what I'm saying, Patrick.
No, what I thought I read, and I could be mistaken. I thought what I read was that most states except for Alaska, whoever controls the legislature in each state, they control both houses. The Democrats control 17 or 18, the Republicans 32, and then Alaska is split. One house is Republican, one is Democrat. So I think those 32 states both houses are controlled Republican.
May well be, but it doesn't have to be that. I mean, you can have a state where, like I said, where you've got a larger Republican majority in the House. They tend to be larger in population, larger number of people. A larger Republican majority in the House, a smaller Democratic majority in the Senate. When you simply say every state legislator has one vote for the state, right? So all the members of the House and all the members of the Senate all vote, and each one of their votes is equal, and that ultimate, that combined vote becomes the vote, which is the state's vote, the singular vote. They say yes, yes Joe Biden or yes Donald Trump. And, I've got to go through and do the math on this. I've got to update the article.
If one state is both houses are controlled by a majority, so wouldn't the total of both houses combined be the majority?
Yes, of course. What I'm saying is if you got 32 states where both houses are controlled by Republicans, it's not just going to be a 32-state majority in the election. It could be 35, 36, 37. It could be even worse than you're describing, Patrick. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. More information at carshield.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
It's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive Thursday. Please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV stay on the air. This is our great network. It's got great content. It's an important piece of our media landscape. I would say a vital piece. You'll get information here you don't get anywhere else, or you'll get the deep dives here that generally you don't see anywhere else. Free Speech TV is really an important voice for not just a progressive point of view or even a democratic point of view, but for an American point of view, for a pro-American point of view, for American values, or at least what we once thought were American values. So please, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. Please call now and make your contribution. This is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for many of us. At least I can breathe a little better today. The air here in Portland has gotten a little better, but it's just tough. It's tough all over the country, and it's tough for the folks at Free Speech TV too. Many of them, most of them, I think, are working remotely. It's difficult for them. But financially, it's a very difficult time for the network. It happens every 4 years, basically. We really have a challenge raising money, because there are so many, politicians and good causes, great causes, that are competing essentially with us for the funds that we need every 3-4 months to keep the lights on, to keep the electrons flowing, to keep things working. So it's a tough one. Tip of the hat to Mike from San Francisco. He has picked up all of our hard costs. He also tossed in a $10,000 match yesterday, and thank you, Mike, for that. A lot of people made a contribution, and if you're one of them, thank you. And Andrew from San Diego has got a $10,000 match for us if we hit our goal at the end of this fund drive. So we are moving as fast and as hard as we can toward that. So now would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669 and make your contribution. If you get value from Free Speech TV, is it worth $5 to you? $5 a month even? In fact, the monthly contributions are some of the absolutely most important, because that allows Free Speech TV to budget. I think yesterday we had fewer than $100 in monthly contributions. Monthly contributions are really the very best. Even, for example, if you're thinking, well, I can give $100, Instead, make it $10 a month for a year. Well, that'd be $120, but you get the point. $100 a month for 10 months. You can tell them when to cut it off, or you can just say, hey, every month ding my credit card until I tell you to stop. And they will stop immediately. This isn't one of those, multi-level marketing things or something like that. Everything is right up front. Everything is right out in the open. They don't sell their names or their lists. Free Speech TV doesn't, or anything like that. You're good folks, you can trust them. And monthly contributions are so important to Free Speech TV because they allow the network to plan for the future. In fact, it's pretty much the only way that the network can know, okay, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, here's how much money we're going to have coming in, so this is what we can do with that money. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Fight for Democracy sticker, or the set of 3 stainless steel straws. Yesterday, the air was so bad, I was wearing this mask, and I was thinking, if I had one of those straws, I could just kind of run it up under the mask and drink things. I have some on order, actually. So, from Free Speech TV. That's with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get you have your choice, the Free Speech TV webcam cover, or the tote bag, Change Never Happens from the Top Down, or the postcard deck, the Fight for Democracy postcard deck. With a $75 gift, the only way you can get the official Thom Hartmann Program mug with the $75 gift from Free Speech TV, or the Free Speech TV black hat that has the Free Speech TV logo on it. Excuse me. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV face mask. It says, what can we grow from crisis? And which is kind of cool. With a $120 gift, there you have your choice. There's a t-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. You can also make your own if you want to be an evangelist for the network. We need all the help we can get. Or your choice of one of 3 books, either my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, or a Greg Palast book, How Trump Stole 2020, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a really good book, by the way, The Hidden Histories of Monopolies. It's one of the best. I'm so proud of this book. I put a hell of a lot of work into it. I think you'll really like it. Heck of a lot of work, excuse me. With a $240 gift, we've got the virtual meet and greets on October 14th and November 18th. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with the bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the tote bag, the postcards, and the Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. But bottom line, call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you. They need your help. Please call now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. You'll recall a few months ago I was ranting and raving about this book that I'm holding, my dog-eared copy that I'm holding in my hands by Sarah Kedzier. It's titled Hiding in Plain Sight, The Invention of Donald Trump and the Erosion of America. Just some absolutely brilliant reporting. She's also the co-host of the Gaslit Nation podcast and her previous book, The View from Flyover Country. Sarah Kendzior, KENDZIOR.com is her website and her Twitter handle. Sarah, welcome to the program. So glad to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It is, you have written a brilliant book here, and the parts of it that I found most troubling, frankly, were, had to do with Trump's association with autocrats around the world, and some of the stuff about Jared Kushner was pretty shocking too. In the light of where we're at right now, is obviously not where we were when you were writing this book, what would you add, or you want to provide a baseline for our listeners and viewers of the case that you're making? First of all, that what is it that Trump is hiding in plain sight?
He's hiding 40 years of criminal ties, ties to the Kremlin, ties to other dictatorships around the world, and ambitions for the destruction of the United States. In many ways, his goals are in line with what the Republican Party has been doing since the Reagan era, trying to gut the government, trying to drown it in a bathtub, as was infamously claimed. So, some of this is just a continuation of pre-existing terrible American policies, but there's also an element of, what I've called a transnational crime syndicate of various horrible actors, oligarchs, plutocrats, dictators, mafiosos, uniting in basically a global heist. And you see these repercussions not just here in the U.S., but also in post-Brexit UK, in Russia, in Israel, and around the world. So, we're in a very bad place.
Yeah, it's like an international, and I don't think people think in terms like this. I mean, over on the right, everybody's hysterical about George Soros, and they talk about the QAnon movement now, talking about the international, Jewish conspiracy. They're just right up front about it. They're basically channeling protocols of the elders of Zion. But on the left, or among average Americans, I don't think there's much thought or discussion about the possibility that Donald Trump is part of an international criminal syndicate, an international crime syndicate that literally is hijacking countries. I mean, if you want to get really rich, if you want to become not just a billionaire, but worth hundreds of or dozens of billions of dollars anyway, don't steal a company, don't build a company, steal a country. And turn all the resources of that country over to your small band of, your little merry band of buddies. Do you think that that's, or can you document that that's exactly what's going on in the United States right now?
Yes, that is what's going on. And in the book, I lay out the mechanisms that were in place for them to be able to pull this off, because it's not something that they just stumbled into. Into 2016, it's the culmination of a lot of long-term plans, and that's why you see the same people over and over again. You see, Bill Barr returning from his Iran-Contra cover-up. You see Rupert Murdoch as a continual actor. You, of course, see Trump, Manafort, Stone. These are kleptocrats in terms of how they govern. That is their main goal. It's to exploit the executive branch to enhance their personal wealth. But in terms of, the broader implications of it, in the 21st century, we've entered this era of, borderless states, and crime can go over those borders. White-collar crime can surpass those borders. And so these lines between state corruption and corporate crime and what we would think of as, mafia crime, organized crime, have really blurred. And so the importance of the nation state is fading. You instead see these alliances of ultra-wealthy elites banding together to strip nations down, sell them for parts, no regard for the welfare of the people who have to live in these countries, and often, basically always employing fascist tactics, which we're seeing, I think, most profoundly with the treatment of migrants in these camps in the United States, but also in things like, using the military, threatening to have them fire on civilians if they protest, openly trying to steal and rig an election. These are all classic authoritarian moves, and our institutions, are so battered at this point. We're already battered before Trump even took office, that they have not held up to this kind of onslaught.
Yeah, 40 years of Reaganism has gutted the middle class. In 2010, we hit the point where fewer than half of Americans were still in the middle class, and provided a fertile field for this. Sarah, if you go back and read the debates between Edmund Burke and Thomas Paine in the 1790s. Paine spent 2 weeks at Burke's house while he was on his way to the French Revolution to get arrested, and was so infuriated by what Burke had to say that he wrote an entire book as a rebuttal called The Rights of Man. But the essential argument between the two, Burke was a wealthy British conservative, and in fact so influential that when Russell Kirk wrote The Conservative Mind in 1951, the first chapter is about Burke. He's the foundation of the modern American conservative movement. And Burke didn't believe that anybody who was not wealthy should be allowed to vote, number one. But secondly, his principal argument was that people are both incompetent by and large, the masses are stupid and evil, that at our core we're all evil. And therefore, to paraphrase Thomas Hobbes from Leviathan back in 1634, which kind of kicked off the Enlightenment, therefore the iron fist of church and state is necessary to restrain our behavior. And that's the rationale that conservatives have used for 200 years, 240 years, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, for semi-authoritarian, or at least somewhat authoritarian governance. That was the kind of rationale that was used by the Reagan administration. Are these guys even trying to make philosophical rationales anymore, or is this just plain old greed? Are they just looting us?
It's plain old greed. If they're still saying Edward Burke, that's like a massive self-own at this point, to go on about how inherently evil and greedy and selfish people are, because they are embracing these qualities. The concept of shame is gone. They used to try, to mask themselves with patriotism or family values or, small businesses or whatever they claim their motivation is. That's gone, and I think they see Trump as a kind of battering ram in that way. He's a vehicle for these broader objectives. These kind of criminal plots that I'm referring to, they're not designed by Trump. They're designed by his backers, both in the United States and abroad. And, that kind of conservatism, the like Alex P. Keaton type, glossed over conservatism. I think that died a long time ago. I barely remember it. My introduction to conservatism in the United States was watching Newt Gingrich bulldoze his way through the House and enter this era of hyper-partisanship and, abject lying and cruelty, and then also watching the Democrats put up a very weak response to that. I think we're kind of past that two-party politic vision. It's really a battle between these ultra rich elites and dark money and forces that control our politics in that way that just disregard the will of the public and disregard representative democracy to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, I even beyond a certain extent. Sarah, we just have 20 seconds, so we're going to hit a hard break. So let me just say, you have written an absolutely brilliant book, and I strongly recommend to everybody who's listening or watching right now that you pick up a copy of Hiding in Plain Sight, The Invention of Donald Trump and the Erosion of America by Sarah Kendzior. It is brilliant. Sarah, thanks so much for dropping by today and talking with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Anytime you want to come on, just give me a shout. We'll be back. It's 15 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Whew. So, it's not just that Trump is trying to kill us and using that to get power, through negligence or whatever. It's that there's an international criminal syndicate behind it.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Mind-boggling. Your thoughts? Pick up your calls after this. And welcome back. And let's see here. Jonathan in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jonathan. Hope you're doing well. Hi, here with the smoke.
Today is a great day to remember because September 17th was the day that the U.S. Constitution was created. So we should be remembering.
Really?
That. Yes.
Was that the last date of the convention in Philadelphia in 1787?
It was the closing endorsement, the signing of the U.S. Constitution, when 39 delegates endorsed the Constitution, and that's what we're celebrating today.
Amazing. I did not know that. Thank you, Jonathan, for that.
But
that's not what you called about, right?
I called to clarify a point. Dr. Deborah Birx made two important points during several White House press conferences a long time ago, and she's been reiterating them. But the first thing is, regarding herd immunity, she specifically said that the term herd immunity when it was always used when it comes to vaccination. No one would use that term in general, and especially when discussing a pandemic and letting a pandemic run out with the level of mortality that they see associated with comorbidities. So the term herd immunity is in her use is specifically...
Which is the point our caller Paul made in the first hour. Yes, spot on.
Well, he wasn't making quite that point. He was saying that there was no science behind it, and it was, But
he was saying it had only been applied to the use of vaccines to hit some certain threshold where you don't need you don't need to vaccinate 100% of people. If the vaccine is 70% effective and you vaccinate 90% of the people you've got, or if it's 90% effective and you vaccinate 70% of the people, you'll slow or stop the transmission of the disease, and that's calling herd immunity. But, he pointed out there is no place in science where that term or even that idea has ever been applied to a virus in the wild.
Exactly, but you don't need to do a lot of research for that. She's been repeatedly saying that publicly. But the other thing is that she points out regarding testing, there's an important point that people don't understand. The tests are not 100% sensitive. And if you have a 1% of the population is infected and the test is only 99% specific, that means that when you find a positive, 50% of the time it will only be a real positive, and 50% of the time it won't be. So that's why she's saying that.
Well, that depends on the bias of the test, Jonathan. What they'll do is
Let me just finish my sentence. That's why she's saying that she's asking for testing to be done among first responders and healthcare workers where they have the greatest exposure, because that's where the test will be most reliable. So there's a distinct difference between testing a general population and testing a population that you think is highly infected.
Right. And where I was going, I guess it's pretty irrelevant, but there's the bias. So you get a test that has maybe 5% false positives and 95% false negatives, or vice versa, or whatever. There's a whole spectrum, and you can kind of move the slider around on that as to how you use those tests and how you. But yeah, I get your point. I'll have to go back and look for. When was the last time Burke said that? Do you know?
Yeah, well, let's see. It was a White House press conference, and it looks like the date was April 20th, 2020.
For 2020, okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm writing it down. Jonathan, excuse me, thank you for the call. It's good to hear from you. We'll be right back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. You can help America return to democracy by telling friends and family how to listen to this and other great progressive programs. Tag You're It. Our video for our supporters of our program this week, that's available over at thomhartmann.com, talks about the radical idea of universal health care. What countries in the world might actually have universal health care? Something that, according to Republicans, we're just not smart enough or competent enough or whatever. It's too radical an idea, They include Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Chile, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Israel, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. So why can't we do it here? Well, because you've got an entire political party, the Republican Party, and a few Democrats who are wholly owned subsidiaries of the health insurance industry. And you got a health insurance industry that's paying its CEOs millions, in one case, United Healthcare, billions, or billion. And so, gridlock. Anyhow, it's over at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And by the way, earlier in the program, somebody sent a note to Louise about this, and he was right. I had said that the Judiciary Committee in the House basically makes the case for impeachment to the full House. And the full House basically has a trial on that. I shouldn't have used the word trial. That is what the Senate does. They hold the trial to determine whether the president gets removed from office or not. I lack a better word for it, because the House has to debate, do we think he's guilty or not? And if they think he's guilty, then they impeach him, and he is now impeached, which means that the majority of members of the House have said, we believe this man is guilty of these crimes and should be removed from office. Then the Senate has to actually do the removal via what is referred to as a trial in the Constitution. And thank you to that listener, and just to clean it up and make sure everybody gets it. So, Kelly in Forest Knolls, California. Hey, Kelly, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Tom. Sarah really touched on a lot of the points I was going to make, and basically, it's been pretty well established that Trump is an agent of Putin, and Putin himself absolutely hates the United States for what we did to the Soviet Union, and he's really actively trying to recreate that, the Soviet Union. In the meantime, he wants to destroy the United States, just as we destroyed Russia, break it up into pieces. And that'll just create the perfect opportunity for a kleptocracy. And remember that Putin was the first man ever to be estimated to be worth $200 billion, long before Bezos. And that was essentially done by privatizing the assets and essential services of his government, which, again, is what Trump wants to do. And I think that what he's doing, how he's engaging that, is through psychological warfare. His constant misinformation and his stream of lies really represents a psyop, as they would say in the intelligence community, a psychological warfare operation. That's essentially what I want.
Kelly, I can't disagree with you at all. The one piece of nuance I would add to it is that, as much as Putin may be pulling Trump's chain, and I think particularly with regard to anything that has to do with Russia, Trump is still hoping to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, or maybe even to retire to Russia, or God only knows what all. But this goes way beyond Vladimir Putin. And Sarah documents this so well in her book. You've got billionaires and authoritarian leaders who quickly become billionaires and suck up to billionaires literally all over the world, and they are coordinating their efforts. And what happened in Hungary, for example, with Viktor Orban, is a great example of this. And Trump is following Orban's playbook, almost step by step. It's really shocking. I wrote an op-ed about this a while ago that you can easily find with a internet search. So. But I just add that as a caveat. I just don't think that there's like some singular evil mastermind behind the destruction of the world. You've got a bunch of people who think that, number one, it's in their best interest to control everything. Probably most of them have very insecure, childhoods like Trump did, and number two, they dislike democracy. They don't think that the democratic system is the way to go. But other than that, I'm spot on. Kelly, thank you for the call. Corey in Chicago. Hey, Corey, what's up?
Yeah, so
Corey?
Using the 12th Amendment, the Democrats can't stop the Republicans from electing Donald Trump by refusing to have a quorum. There are currently 19 controlled Democrat legislative states and only 29 Republican, with 2 being split. Even if those 2 were to go Republican, they would fail to meet the 2/3 quorum called out in the 12th Amendment.
Are you sure that there's a quorum requirement in the 12th Amendment?
There is, yes. When it gets sent to the House of Representatives, as previous callers have stated,
a quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators and a majority of the whole number said to be necessary for the choice. Oh, that's for the vice president. Let's see, the person. Oh, interesting. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states. A majority of all the states shall be necessary. Oh, but that quorum that the 12th Amendment talks about is that there be essentially a quorum of members in the U.S. House of Representatives who are voting what was decided in their individual states, is it not?
Well,
the person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be the president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person, then from the persons having the height. Well, I'll have to dig into it. Corey, thank you. Another nuance here that I'm going to have to dig into and research. I appreciate the call. It's 27 minutes past the hour, coming up on 28 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls and the news of the day after this. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Viagra for your brain, only does not lead to stiff thinking. next. We'll be right back with your calls.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Right back in just a minute. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the home of the political revolution. It's the Free Speech TV Fund Drive Thursday. Please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV stay on the air. This is our great network. It's got great content. It's an important piece of our media landscape. I would say a vital piece. You'll get information here you don't get anywhere else, or you'll get the deep dives here that generally you don't see anywhere else. Free Speech TV is really an important voice for not just a progressive point of view or even a democratic point of view, but for an American point of view, for a pro-American point of view, for American values, or at least what we once thought were American values. So please, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. Please call now and make your contribution. This is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for many of us. At least I can breathe a little better today. The air here in Portland has gotten a little better, but it's just tough. It's tough all over the country, and it's tough for the folks at Free Speech TV too. Many of them, most of them, I think, are working remotely. It's difficult for them. But financially, it's a very difficult time for the network. It happens every 4 years, basically. We really have a challenge raising money, because there are so many, politicians and good causes, great causes, that are competing essentially with us for the funds that we need every 3-4 months to keep the lights on, to keep the electrons flowing, to keep things working. So it's a tough one. Tip of the hat to Mike from San Francisco. He has picked up all of our hard costs. He also tossed in a $10,000 match yesterday, and thank you, Mike, for that. A lot of people made a contribution, and if you're one of them, thank you. And Andrew from San Diego has got a $10,000 match for us if we hit our goal at the end of this fund drive. So we are moving as fast and as hard as we can toward that. So now would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669 and make your contribution. If you get value from Free Speech TV, is it worth $5 to you? $5 a month even? In fact, the monthly contributions are some of the absolutely most important, because that allows Free Speech TV to budget. I think yesterday we had fewer than $100 in monthly contributions. Monthly contributions are really the very best. Even, for example, if you're thinking, I can give $100, instead make it $10 a month for a year. Well, that'd be 120, but you get the point. $100 a month for 10 months. You can tell them when to cut it off, or you can just say, hey, every month ding my credit card until I tell you to stop. And they will stop immediately. This isn't one of those, multi-level marketing things or something like that. Everything is right up front. Everything is right out in the open. They don't sell their names or their lists. Free Speech TV doesn't, or anything like that. You're good folks, you can trust them. And monthly contributions are so important to Free Speech TV because they allow the network to plan for the future. In fact, it's pretty much the only way that the network can know, okay, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, here's how much money we're going to have coming in, so this is what we can do with that money. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution to Free Speech TV and help keep this network on the air. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Fight for Democracy sticker, or the set of 3 stainless steel straws. Yesterday, the air was so bad, I was wearing this mask, and I was thinking, if I had one of those straws, I could just kind of run it up under the mask and drink things. I have some on order, actually. So, from Free Speech TV. That's with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you have your choice, the Free Speech TV webcam cover, or the tote bag, Change Never Happens from the Top Down, or the postcard deck, the Fight for Democracy postcard deck, with a $75 gift. The only way you can get the official Thom Hartmann Program mug with the $75 gift from Free Speech TV, or the Free Speech TV black hat that has the Free Speech TV logo on it. Excuse me. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV face mask. It says, "What can we grow from crisis?" and which is kind of cool. With a $120 gift, there you have your choice. There's a T-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. You can also make your own if you want to be an evangelist for the network. We need all the help we can get. Or your choice of one of 3 books, either my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, or a Greg Pallas book, How Trump Stole 2020, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a really good book, by the way, The Hidden Histories of Monopolies. It's one of the best. I'm so proud of this book. I put a hell of a lot of work into it. I think you'll really like it. Heck of a lot of work, excuse me. With a $240 gift, we've got the virtual meet and greets on October 14th and November 18th. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with the bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the tote bag, the postcards, and the Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. But bottom line, call now, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs you. They need your help. Please call now. Thank you. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. So nuclear power is being sold as the thing that's going to save us from climate change. It's not. Not only does it take mind-boggling amounts of carbon to even build a nuclear power plant, all that concrete, all that steel, all that stuff that has to be hauled in and transported, and then you got to mine the uranium, and then you got to ship it, and all this kind of stuff. But now the industry is out with their hand out. 20 years ago, we subsidized the industry to the tune of $100 billion, and that's not the unquantifiable amount from the Price-Anderson Act, where we insure nuclear power plants as well. These are just subsidies, and now we've got a whole set of brand new subsidies that companies in New York and Ohio and Pennsylvania and New Jersey are coming to the ratepayers. It's mind-boggling. We've got a whole video about it, that lays out all the details for our supporters over at thomhartmann.com, and you can get over there and check it out. It's pretty amazing stuff, and nuclear power. No panacea. In fact, it's a big problem. Check it out at thomhartmann.com. Thank you. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And on the line with us is David Kraft. David is the founder and director of the Nuclear Energy Information Service, NEIS. NEIS.org is their website, and NEI is their Twitter handle. And David, welcome to the program. You've got this new report out, and I see the Chicago Tribune picked it up, about the intersection of climate change and financial challenges and nuclear power and all of these things coming together. You're talking about basically this one company in particular, ripping us off like crazy. Tell us the story.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be on the show and to tell the story in the first place. Our organization is 39 years old, and during that whole time here in Chicago, Illinois, we've been monitoring and watchdogging what was at first Commonwealth Edison, and then that grew into Exelon Corporation. And Exelon now is a multi-state entity. It's the largest utility and the largest nuclear electric utility in the nation. And as you pointed out, Tom, they have their tentacles in states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, and, of course, Illinois, which is where we have the most reactors in the country. Total, we had 14 at one point, and a few have been closed down. So we're down to 11, but we still have more than anybody else. So to get to your point exactly, two things have come together to help us write that editorial in the Tribune, which appeared on the 28th and 31st of August. The first is a multi-year campaign by Exelon to secure nuclear bailouts for what they claim are money-losing reactors. And we have pegged this as the new energy pandemic. It's bad enough we have to deal with COVID. Now we have to deal with all these nuclear operators in Illinois, in South Carolina, in Georgia, elsewhere, who have their hands out to bilk ratepayers billions of dollars for their money-losing nuclear reactors. And the way we have portrayed this, and over the last 6 years that we have fought it, is it really comes down to a nuclear hostage crisis. And I'll run the template real quickly so we can dovetail into the climate part. It goes like this. A company like Exelon comes to the legislature and says, oh, we have these reactors, they're losing money, and unless somebody comes up with a new scheme to give us more money, we're going to have to close the reactors down. Now, what that triggers is a real local crisis for those communities because Exelon is usually the biggest game in town. So you have a company-town situation, and of course there's a threat of enormous job loss, a reduced tax base, which of course affects public services and schools. So that's the first round of the template. Create a crisis, talk about all of the horrible things. The second part, though, is that they then tout themselves as a carbon-free green energy resource. And so that that raises the environmental issue of how they can supposedly help out with the climate crisis. They claim to be emissions-free, they're clean power. So what they're doing there with this template is, in the first place, panic peddling the local communities to put pressure on legislatures to enact bailouts. And then secondly, try to cloak themselves in the mantle of environmentalism by saying they're clean, green, and emissions-free, none of which is true. So that's been the situation here, and we've found that the message gets certainly a lot of local attention with local politicians like mayors, legislators in the districts, editorial boards from the papers, and more importantly, the unions, especially the IBEW and unions like pipe fitters and steam boiler unions whose jobs are at stake if the reactors close. Now, in 2016, they finally got their first bailout here of $2.3 billion over a 10-year period to bail out 3 money-losing reactors in Illinois. They are now back in Illinois asking for a different method of getting compensation for 4 more reactors that they're threatening to close. So we're calling their bluff. You know, this is a hostage crisis, and you don't deal with hostage takers. Our point all along is if anybody needs bailing out, it's the communities that would be affected by Exelon's closure. And so we've been arguing for what's called just transitions for these communities, where you plan ahead for a reactor or even a coal plant that's going to close down. So you have money in the bank to protect your tax base, money in the bank to protect your local services. Now, how does this tie into the climate crisis? Recently, about 2 weeks ago, Moody's investors came out with a report which indicated that in this climate-disrupted world that we're observing now, where a third of the country is on fire and the other portion in the south is going to be underwater if all these hurricanes keep hitting, they mentioned that as the climate crisis worsens, the operating costs of nuclear reactors is expected to increase because they're going to have to beef up their safety systems to protect the environment and the communities, of course, from any kind of a catastrophic failure due to the climate changes.
Right.
So Moody's came out with this, and then just the other day, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists on the 14th had an article which also went into more detail about this, specifically in Florida at the Turkey Point reactor, saying, look, in a climate-disrupted world, nuclear power, at the very least, is going to cost much, much more than any other energy resource. But the other issue that gets overlooked is water. In a climate-disrupted world, I mean, it's already in our world, water is the most important resource, but in a climate-disrupted world, it's going to be much more unpredictable, much less available in certain parts of the country. And we have already found in Illinois over the last 30 years that there have been times when reactors had to close down when they were needed the most because there wasn't enough water to both produce the steam and to cool the reactors and keep them safe. So moving forward, anyone who hitches their wagons to the nuclear power industry generally, and any steam cycle resource like coal or fossil fuels, is looking for trouble.
Yeah, I get it. We're talking with David Kraft. He's the founder and director of the Nuclear Energy Information Service. And David, just very briefly, can number one, why not simply say to these power companies, okay, you need $4 billion. raise the price to your ratepayers and raise your own damn money. And then the ratepayers will be able to say, hey, wait a minute, my electric bill just went up $50 this month. I think I'm going to get some solar panels for my roof.
Yes, because no governor or state legislator in their right mind up for election wants to go in and say, I'm going to raise your electric rates. So that's the first part of your answer there.
But you're not. You're subsidizing the company.
Yeah. And our point all along is like, look, these are your reactors. Those are your assets. That's why you, Exelon, have a board of directors. You are a profitable corporation. If you think these assets are worth keeping and protecting, take the money from one of your other money-making enterprises and spread it around your corporation. That's your job.
Right.
The job of the Illinois legislature is to protect the public health and the environment. So they don't work for you.
Let's also rebut this argument that is made by the nuclear industry, and they're continuing to make it, and they make it loudly, that, we're not burning any, we got no stinking fossil fuels here. Your rebuttal, sir.
Well, again, that's wrapping the nuclear pig in a blanket of silk, saying that we're environmental and clean and green and we don't produce carbon dioxide. Yeah, it's true, there are no global warming gases when you produce the nuclear power on site, but nuclear power does have a large carbon footprint, much bigger than wind or solar, for example. And that was a point we made, is if you're going to reward this particular industry for its alleged environmental benefits of not producing greenhouse gases, then you should doubly compensate renewables because they don't produce.
Right. With this, I mean, it takes fossil fuels to run the giant equipment that they use for mining uranium out of the ground. It takes fossil fuels to power to transport that uranium ore. It takes fossil fuels in most cases to refine that iron ore. It takes fossil fuels to build the concrete containment shells and the steel. I mean, there's a mind-boggling amount of fossil fuel that goes into a nuclear power plant. We had an expert on this subject a while ago saying, it takes 15 years before a nuclear power plant produces its first watt of carbon-free electricity. Would you agree with that?
That's right. And then at the end of the day, you still have radioactive waste that you have to manage for tens or hundreds of thousands of years, and there's going to be a carbon footprint to that. You don't have that with renewables of any kind. So that's the message we send back to the legislature of, look, if you're going to reward people for environmental benefits, you got to give a double dip to renewables.
Yeah, there you go. David Kraft, the founder and director of the Nuclear Energy Information Service, NEIS.org is the website. Check it out. David, thanks a lot for dropping by today. Good talking with you.
Thanks for having me. Stay well.
Yeah, my pleasure. 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with your calls right after this. Stick around for Thom Hartmann Program, Talk Media for the rest of us. Well, for all of us. For America. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's tough times. We all have to figure out ways to smile a little more often, myself included. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Steve in Simi Valley, California. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hello, Tom. I just want to bring up about what we were talking about. If the race goes to the Congress, if it does, it's going to be after January 1st. That means a new Congress will be seated, and as you know, for vice president, the Senate would vote on that. Each one would have a vote, and the Democrats stand a good chance of taking the Senate. So you could have a Trump presidency with Kamala Harris as vice president of the United States.
No, under the 12th Amendment, it's not up to the Senate, it's up to the House of Representatives. And even the House of Representatives doesn't get to vote. Each state's congressional delegation, and I read the 12th Amendment during the break per our Patrick's call earlier. The quorum that they're talking about is members of the House, of the U.S. House of Representatives, members of the Senate. But each state's delegation, here in Oregon, we have, I believe, 5 members of our congressional delegation. They collectively would have one vote. And that one vote would be given to them, the person that they would have to vote for. They'd be directed to cast that vote by the combined membership of the Oregon House and the Oregon Senate. And
really? Even
in the United States Senate has nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you then.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Steve. Yeah. I mean, read the 12th Amendment, but the 12th Amendment has been updated or essentially amended by a law that was passed in 1780. Let's see, it was 1776. So it must have been 1778 that they passed the law. So it'd be something like the Election Act of 1786. But I referenced all that in that op-ed that I wrote months ago. Talking about these very issues. Howard in Mahdi, Alabama. Hey, Howard, what's up?
Hi, Tom. A few years ago, I served on a Los Angeles grand jury, and actually there are two kinds of grand juries, an accusatory grand jury and an investigatory grand jury. And to me, there's a direct parallel with impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives. In other words, there's no judge. Prosecution presents its evidence, and a true bill of indictment is brought if it is guilty as charged, and then it passes on to a trial jury. So in the House of Representatives, it seems like there's a direct parallel to that. The burden of proof is probable cause, by the way.
Right. And the House, the case is made, the investigation is done by the Judiciary Committee by and large. The House itself can ask for witnesses, and I believe that they did in the case of Trump, and they basically build the case to the House, and then the House votes on it, and then the House sends the so-called impeachment managers to the Senate to make their case to the senators, that was actually fairly brilliantly done. I mean, several of those guys were Adam Schiff and Hakeem Jeffries. They were brilliant. I mean, Jeffries and Smith. I have so much respect for those guys. They are so competent, such great lawyers, great legislators. Howard, thank you. Thank you very much for the call. Yeah, I think you're onto something. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. The hidden history of the war on voting tells how the GOP has been stealing elections for decades and will again this year unless we stop them. So we've got a new video over at thomhartmann.com laying out, for people who are supporters of our program, basically laying out how Ronald Reagan set us up for fascism. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. I'll go into a little more detail on the video over on our website. But basically, when you look at country after country, whether it was the countries that were destroyed in World War I, and thus poverty was rampant in Italy, Spain, and Germany, or whether it was whatever it may be, when the standard of living of the middle class begins to collapse and the middle class stops being more than 50% of the population, that's when the majority of people in the country are receptive to a fascist message. The fascist message essentially is, I'll tell you who did this to you. It wasn't us. It was those brown people. It was those black people. It was those Jews. It was those fill in the blanks, right? This is their story. Check it out. It's over at thomhartmann.com. Deductible mail. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Marianne in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Marianne, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering, I'm thinking that one of the reasons for the lack of a coherent, consistent COVID-19 program, I'm wondering, by the federal government under Trump, is it racially motivated goal of thinning the herd?
Well, this is why I believe that they changed their tune in the week immediately following the April 7th release of the report showing that there were racial disparities in who was dying from COVID-19, that it was hitting black and African Americans and Hispanics more than it was hitting Caucasians, more than it was hitting white people. And at that point, suddenly the whole coronavirus task force, all the plans that they were making, Jared Kushner had plans to, get masks for everybody in America. The Postal Service had already written the press release that they're going to send out. We're going to send everybody in America 5 reusable masks. It was 500 million masks. All this stuff was in place, and it all came to a screeching halt when that came out. And I think that probably that is a large factor in it, Marianne. And since then, Trump has figured out, or Trump and his buddies, or Trump and his God only knows who's advising him, have figured out how they can twist this and turn this to use it to disrupt the election as well. And that's the big thing that's coming next, in my opinion.
Right. But I think also it is to thin the population of certain groups of people. That's my thinking. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
thank you.
I think it may be the case. Yeah, Marianne, thank you. Lou in Los Angeles. Hey, Lou, what's up?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking the call. I'm calling regarding a call from 30 minutes ago or so about the guy that said that the state legislatures, the Republican state legislatures, can decide who the president is. They can vote for Trump, even though the state itself, popular vote, went to Biden. And you agreed with that. But here's why I disagree with it. 20 years ago, when it was Florida, and for more than a month, there were court decisions. There was also a lot of recounting of votes. And the Republicans control Florida legislature. And they said, several members said, well, we don't really care what the court says or what the final vote is. We're just going to vote for the Republican, for George W. Bush.
That's correct.
Well, all right. But a few days later, well, it could be a week later, I remember exactly, either there was a court decision or it may have been some learned legal experts, I can't remember which, said you can't do that. You can't change the rules in the middle of the game. So you want to change it to that the legislature makes a decision, fine. And that will apply 4 years ago at the next presidential election. You can't change it in the middle of the election. And after
that had to do with state laws, Lou. That was you're talking about the Florida Supreme Court decision that mandated that a statewide recount happen. And that was taken to the U.S. Supreme Court in the Bush v. Gore case, where George Bush sued Al Gore at the Supreme Court, saying that if the state Supreme Court's decision to count every vote in Florida was actually carried out, it would, quote, cause irreparable harm to plaintiff George W. Bush, end quote. But that's not the 12th Amendment scenario that I'm talking about. The 12th Amendment scenario is when...
What you said is not what I'm talking about. This is something else. That the Florida legislature or certain Republican members said it doesn't matter what the courts rule.
I know.
It doesn't.
I know. The Constitution says that a state can decide how they're going to cast their electoral votes. And if they're going to do that by statute, if they're going to, as Nebraska and Maine have done, where they've decided they're going to split up their vote, or every other state has done by statute, these are state laws that says whoever gets the majority of votes, all of the electors for the state go for that person. Yeah, that's by statute. And if you're going to change the way you count it, you've got to change the statute. What I'm talking about has nothing to do with that. That was what happened in Florida. What I'm talking about is if there aren't 270 electoral votes for either candidate, because a number of states say we cannot submit a certified count of our electoral vote to Congress, to the U.S. Congress. And if they say we can't do that, this is what the 12th Amendment says. First of all, the person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be the president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors. Okay, but if it's not 270, then, and if no person have such majority, in other words, if it's not 270, then from the persons having the highest numbers not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as president, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president, but in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states. The representative from each state having 1 vote, a quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary for choice. In other words, it gets thrown to the state legislatures. That's what I'm saying. Lou, I get what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right. Thanks so much for the call. Thanks for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Hopefully my throat will hold out. It will. We'll push through this, right? We're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. So get out there, get active, tag. You're it. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. Say what, Sean?
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. More information at carshield.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!